Welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast, everyone. This is episode 270. We've been doing this 270 episodes.
That's fabulous.
And only taken 4 weeks off.
Taking 4 weeks off. So welcome back. Happy to have you guys. We are joined by some special guests tonight. Would you guys like to introduce yourselves?
I'm Joyce Nethery, and I am founder, owner, and master distiller of Jeptha Distillery in Shelbyville, Kentucky.
It's a lot of titles.
Many hats.
Many hats.
Many hats.
I'll keep mine pretty simple. I'm Chris Wilkins, the regional sales manager for Jeptha.
Nice. What's your territory?
So I take care of Ohio, which is where we are right now, as of the beginning of April. And I also have Kentucky and Tennessee.
Yeah. You may want to update your email signature.
Yes.
It's Kentucky, Tennessee as of now.
I actually have. I think maybe if you check your latest email, because I just did it like maybe yesterday.
Could have been.
Yeah.
Just that's awesome that now you have a whole new state to deal with. Perfect.
It's one of the more difficult states to deal with.
It is, as you're probably finding out. Before we dive into this a whole lot, but we've got a heck of a thing. We should probably turn those bottles around.
So that way they can see the labels.
But I do want to talk about, real quick, our sponsors, you guys out there, patreon.com/BourbonBS podcast. We appreciate the continued support that you guys provide. Helps us keep this thing going, and less, if not no, money out of pocket from Nate and myself. And it helps us keep this thing going for you guys every week, and we appreciate that. Share it as well. If you guys want to do a one-time contribution, or, for example, if you guys wanted us to try a Jeptha bottle and say we can't get it, or it just hit the market, you see that it's $49.99, and you say, hey, I want to kick you guys $49.99 so you can go buy that. I want to drink it with you guys on the podcast. Definitely do that. So if you guys want to do that, that's wonderful. Really appreciate it. Also want to thank our sponsors, Tinderbox at Easton in Columbus, Ohio. We were going to smoke something tonight. Probably do it in part 2, but these two surprised us with a gift from the distillery, I assume, right? That's where you can find this.
Absolutely.
And it's a Jeptha Creed. Good at tongue tie.
We'll get it.
Maybe a glass of whiskey will help, but we're going to be smoking something from these guys here as well. And then also Altus USA, you see some of their brands behind us, like Monte Cristo, Romeo, Julieta, and H. Upman. Thank you for the continued support as well. And then also the BS Cigar Company. And if you like some of the shirts that you see that was wearing on here, I have a prototype color scheme. You've got one that's actually available. This is a 3/4 sleeve BS Cigar Company shirt. There's other hoodies on there, t-shirts as well. Buyjack.com/BourbonBS for you guys to grab any of those swag items. Definitely do that. Do you guys have swag items on yours?
Absolutely.
As you guys are wearing some sweet swag. Hat, shirt. What's the website for you guys?
JepthaCreed.com.
Easy. Straight to the point. All right, let's dive into this. You guys are new to Ohio. We have viewers that are in Ohio, elsewhere also, but this is something that is exciting for Nate and myself to dive into something that's new to the state of Ohio. And as I was looking into this on your website, which is very informative, very well done. Have you looked at that, Nate, yet?
I have not.
Definitely check it out, and I encourage you guys to do the same. But wow, a lot of information and a lot of history in the family here and the projects that you guys are working on. And it's not just in these 3 bottles that are in front of us.
No, we have a lot of history. We're very much into it, and we want to tie that into everything that we're doing. In fact, one of our hashtags is #making old fashioned new. So tying the past with now and looking forward to the future is very much about what we're about.
That's awesome. I love it. So let's start. Let's pour a glass here.
Absolutely.
What are we going to start with, and then we can get into that story you're talking about and making the old fashioned new again.
Well, let's start with what's available here in Ohio, which is our bottled and bond rye heavy bourbon, and it is 100 proof.
Good number.
Yeah.
Nice and round.
It is made with our beautiful Bloody Butcher corn that we'll be talking about.
You pick your glass.
Well, I was pouring this one for you.
That's fair. Okay. Oh, and then the audience would like a little bit. That'll be all right. You have to share that with the other 10 people out there.
I will.
So this meets all the criteria for bottle and bond. It is the age at least 4 years in the bottle. What we're tasting today is almost 5 in the bottle, in the barrel.
In the barrel.
In the barrel.
It ages better
In the barrel.
right?
Yeah,
A
absolutely.
little more color.
So it is aged in the barrel almost 5 years. It is distilled, aged, and bottled all at the same distillery, all at Jeptha, all on that same acreage. And this all comes from this same season. It all comes from spring of 2017.
Okay.
So it meets the seasonal criteria too.
Yeah,
right.
So all super, super proud. So this is our
As you should be.
first rye heavy bottle and bond. So this is 75% corn, specifically our Bloody Butcher corn that we
Okay.
talked about
Yep.
before. And then it's 20% malted rye and 5% malted barley. So you're going to get a lot of those malted flavors going on there
Yes.
too.
Yeah.
Wow, that's good.
Cheers.
Cheers.
That is delicious.
Sean had a sip
Thanks.
before any of us.
Cheers,
Long
cheers.
range.
Cheers.
Wow.
Sean loves it because Sean.
I love the wows over
Yeah,
there.
Sean took the first sip and before we all did.
Mm,
He's just sitting there just saying, "Wow," like Owen Wilson back there.
Mhm.
wow.
That,
Finally,
talk to us about
no
this-
burn
the corn.
this week. I was getting burnt.
Talk to us about this
Yes.
corn. You've got some on the table here.
I have been the corn lady. Like when I visit,
All your life or just recently?
well, I've kind of been into vegetables and things all
Okay,
my life,
okay.
but specifically today, touring Ohio, I have been the corn lady. So I walk into all of the agencies and pull out corn, and people are just looking at me like kind of weird.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
I'm the corn lady. So
Good.
well, let me say, we are also a woman-owned distillery.
You are.
Yes,
Yes.
Nice.
absolutely.
You and
And my daughter.
right.
Technically, my son is also an owner,
We won't talk about that.
but we're the majority. We are the majority, so woman-owned
Yeah.
and woman-run. So my son is not working in the distillery at the moment, so we are woman-run, woman-managed.
That's amazing.
So that's one kind of cool
That's
thing about us.
It is. It's very unique, obviously, in this industry.
It is. Looking around, we figured out that there's only about 3% of distilleries that are woman-owned and woman-run in the whole entire country.
Free?
About 3% that we know of anyway.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So it does put us up there in a pretty unique category.
Mhm. Yeah, we had. I'm sure you're familiar with the name Marianne Eves.
I'm familiar with yes.
We had her on a few years ago now.
Yeah.
She was, I think, still involved with that. Some project. Or was it?
Yeah, he left.
It started at
She
Eves
had
Lines.
just started doing Eves
Yeah, I'm
Lines.
sorry. Yeah, it was
Oh,
after
okay.
that.
They were
Yeah,
they were living in the camper while her husband does
Yeah.
circus.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Just brought her up because that was a
Yeah.
part of that conversation, obviously, as well, of how that is a very, very
Yeah.
small minority of like being master distillers, let alone women-owned.
Yes.
That's huge.
So I'm also a master distiller. So I'm a female master distiller. For a while after Marianne left, I was able to say that I was the only female master distiller in Kentucky. That is no longer the case with Elizabeth McCall at Woodford Reserve. So I'm one of two right now. And I hope that keeps on going,
Absolutely.
you know,
Yeah.
so that it's no big deal to say that you're a woman master distiller. I'd love to see that day come.
Just master distiller, right?
Just master distiller. I mean, that's awesome enough by itself.
Absolutely.
I'd love to see that women grow and develop and you know, take over more of these leadership roles in distilling in Kentucky and across the whole country. I think that day's coming.
I think it's going to grow a little bit, as we go forward. It's tough, cigars are the same way. It's definitely a more male-dominated historically because it's such an old, industry where that's just the way history has unfolded. And it's nice to see because you get that different perspective, right? Like with cigars, like palates are different. The way you see things, smell things. There's science behind that as well. That it brings a different perspective, I think, to the industry and especially the product.
I think
Would
it's
you
awesome.
agree or no?
I would totally agree.
Okay.
I mean, I personally, I'm not going to be smoking a cigar tonight because I've never really smoked a cigar before.
Maybe next time.
But it's something I would love to learn about and get into and be able to start pairing the cigars with the bourbons. I think that's such a cool thing. So I'm looking forward to learning more about it, more about cigars for sure.
Absolutely. So let's talk about the corn.
Corn.
Corn lady.
Corn. Okay. So this corn, here's people can see it. This is red.
It looks dark on the screen to me there. It is dark.
Dark.
It's red.
It's red. And this corn is called Bloody Butcher. So this corn is non-GMO. It is open pollinated, and it has been documented in use since at least 1845.
Wow.
So it's very, very old-fashioned corn. That open pollinated means that each kernel on the cob is a seed. We can save the seeds over the winter, plant them back the following spring, and get the same exact corn again. So it's very sustainable,
Every year.
and it makes us seed savers. So it's awesome and beautiful that way.
I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Never.
It's really cool.
It's cool because I'm going to say this, and it really sounds bad, but I mean, Nate, it looks, when I think of corn, that's not what I think of.
No.
I think it looks, it's dark.
It almost looks like
It's super dark.
Well, it almost looks like old Indian corn.
Yeah,
When you were-
okay,
when you go on a
okay,
field trip
yeah.
to the Ohio Historical Museum, they did that stuff. Yeah, it almost looks like pomegranate seeds.
Yeah,
Good call.
that's cool. That's cool. That is a very good color.
All right, there's my contribution for the night. All
I'll
right.
see you later, man.
Mic drop. No.
So this corn, the Indian corn that you mentioned, that's a good analogy because they say that this corn originated by mixing a white settler corn with Indian corn. And that's actually where this came from. So you're right there on it. Cool. One of the reasons I picked this corn is because I've seen where people were growing it for their own cornbread use.
Okay.
Oh,
So I thought, well, if it makes good cornbread, it could make good bourbon. And I think by the wows I got earlier, that it does.
yes.
One of the other things that drew me and attracted me to this corn is the wildlife. Our company is actually called Rut and Strut Distillery. So if you're outdoorsmen at all, you might recognize that rut and the strut.
I do not.
Deer.
Deer?
And turkey.
Okay.
So those are the times when they're rutting, that's the time to go hunt for deer. If they're strutting, that's the time to go hunt
It makes
for turkey.
sense. It makes sense.
Yeah. So watching the deer and the turkey is something that we do for fun and entertainment. And we would watch the deer and the turkey go through. Let me back up a little bit more.
Sure.
So, my husband grew up as a dairy farmer, and we had a dairy of our own for a while. So we have a farm. We had a farm, and there was a point where the dairy, the feed bill was exceeding the revenue, and I was like, no, this has to stop. So we stopped dairying, but we kept the farm, and we kept the tractors and the corn planters and all those pieces. So that we have the land. You know, we have the property, we have the tractors and corn planters and all those pieces. And my background's in chemical engineering.
Yeah, I saw that on my website too.
Jeez.
So that's
Like every other corn lady that I know.
No, but it is like every other master distillery you got.
All right, now you're getting more closer. Yeah.
so yeah, you have to know about chemical engineering to have corn. No, that's not good. But with that combination, we wanted to build a distillery. And that's where the distillery kind of came from, the combination of my husband's agricultural expertise with my engineering, that we could grow our own beautiful heirloom varietal of corn.
Yeah.
I could distill it. My daughter is co-owner with me. She's, I like to call her our master marketer, and she gets it out the door.
She was great on that that promo video that you guys have. Also, there's a great video. It's available on their website. That she kind of goes through the whole. What is it from sun to glass? What do you guys?
Ground to glass.
Ground to glass.
We talk about ground to
Ground to
glass.
glass.
Hear a lot of
Talk.
grained glass.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
no,
take it a step further.
this is
We
cool.
put that seed in the ground and nourish the ground with the spent grains from the distillation process,
Mhm.
which we feed to our cattle and our pigs, plural. And then those cattle and pigs have a side stream called manure.
Yes.
And then that manure composts down, nourishes the soil, put our seed in it. It's a beautiful, continuous, sustainable cycle.
And this is, I'm sorry, I did very brief research. I didn't live your life, obviously, but this is, your husband's Bill?
No, my husband is Bruce.
Bruce, I'm sorry, forgive me. But he came from a farming family, is that correct?
Absolutely, yeah.
And then bought his first farm
He bought his first
from the
farm.
family, right? Like part of it? Is that, am I
Well, he
remembering
got
this correctly?
the financing through family,
Okay.
but it was right next door to his father's farm.
Is this the said farm or is that
This
long
is the
gone?
said farm.
That's
No,
that farm from
that's
all
where
that.
we live. That is where we still live.
So this is right near the generational farm that you guys,
Yes.
that he grew up on. Okay.
Yeah, so
That's
very.
what I'm saying. When I was reading the story, I'm like, how far back does this go? Like, I'm thinking like, oh, they probably source their stuff and all that stuff. It's like, nope.
Nope.
This is all our stuff, if available. I like how you guys put that, like when available or if available for your ingredients. But the special corn, blood butcher,
Bloody
butcher, wasn't.
Well, I know, and it gets a lot of
Chicago
Halloween.
Valentine's Day.
It gets a lot of Halloween type
Oh, for sure.
connotations with it, but see, it's very wholesome and authentic because this corn got its name actually because it is white. It's white in that corn on the cob eating stage. It turns red as it dries in the stalk, and we don't harvest it till it's this kind of dry. And in between white corn on the cob and this, it is white with red splotches in it. So the theory is it got its name Bloody Butcher because at that point, it looks like a butcher's apron that's gotten bloody.
Or someone murdered somebody out in the middle of the field.
No.
Bloody butcher does sound more wholesome. Murder. Or, yeah.
Yes. Much more wholesome than murder.
Friday the 13th style. Wow.
So we watched the deer and the turkey,
Mhm.
and we were growing non-GMO yellow corn, and as an experiment to see if this Bloody Butcher corn was actually going to make good bourbon, we grew 5 acres in a field next to a field of this non-GMO yellow. And like I said, we watched the deer and the turkey, and we would watch them sleep in the yellow corn. Get up, walk across the field, and eat in the red. They would eat in the Bloody Butcher corn. So there were almost literal fights in my household that first year over who got to hunt the Bloody Butcher field. So watching the deer
turkey is one of the reasons I chose this corn, because the deer and the turkey had a choice, and they chose to eat the Bloody Butcher. So I was like, I got to choose it too. So the deer and the turkey still eat a lot of the Bloody Butcher corn, and we actually call that now the critter share.
I like it.
Yeah. We have the angel share, and now we have the critter
Yeah, the
share.
Critter share. Nice.
Yeah.
All right. So you guys did this. I mean, I'm trying to keep up with this story here, is that you just decided that maybe this would make a good bourbon, right? With your background. Had you already started the distillery, or was this the beginning of that project?
No, this was the beginning of
So
all
you
that.
guys are just going along your everyday stuff of farming and doing your thing.
Mhm.
And you're like, you know what I could do with some of that corn?
Yeah.
Did you buy a still? Did you?
We bought a
What-
little
like-
still.
Like how did this like the infancy stages, like where are we going with this story? Because it's super interesting that you're just like chilling on your farm, you look at that, you're like, bet I could do something with that.
Well, you guys are going to like this part of the story, but it starts with my husband.
Okay.
My husband had this idea, and he thought it was going to be a great idea to build a distillery, to pull our skill sets together and build a distillery. And I thought it was kind of crazy. It's
When
like,
was this?
this was in 2012, early 2013.
Okay.
And he kept talking about it, and he had zero experience in distilling. And I mean, I'm entrepreneurial, but my husband's like entrepreneurial to the max. And he kept talking about it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, he's going to do this thing. And I didn't want him to go blind, and I didn't want him to blow himself up.
Smart.
So I found
In that order. Is that
all of the
order?
above. All of the
All
above.
right. No particular order.
Whatever order
All
was
right.
going to happen.
No injuries.
So I found a 5-day distiller's course at Moonshine University in Louisville.
Okay.
It's a real thing.
Yes, it is.
got him signed up for the class. It just happened to be the very first class. And then he couldn't go. My daughter says he deliberately couldn't go, but he couldn't go. And I'd paid for it. And I'm kind of a cheapskate.
Yeah.
So someone had to go. So it ended up being me. So I went to the class and, I have this engineering background. I left engineering when my children were small to teach high school chemistry and physics. Quite a change.
I was going to say, I mean, I bet some of your former students are enjoying this product.
Customers, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. She was my teacher.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
I know her.
Then I left teaching to become a chief financial officer in some of my husband's other companies.
Sure. It's a typical story
yeah.
here. I mean, this
So
is
we're like so much
dime a
going
dozen career changes here. That's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But as you look at it, the engineering, the people management skills you learn, the classroom management
Sure.
skills you learned in teaching, and then all the boring business stuff that's super, super duper important. Accounts payable, accounts receivable, all that. It works together
You learn a lot of patience.
to run the distillery. You need all of those skills to run a good distilling business.
Absolutely.
You
Yeah.
know, absolutely. So I went to the class and I fell back in love with my engineering because I'd been out of it for a little bit. So I fell back in love with my engineering
Mhm.
and McCabe Thiele and, all the technical stuff going on. And copper. I just love copper.
Copper.
Copper. Important in distilling.
Yep.
And I it came to me during that class of the ground to glass concept that with my engineering, with my husband's agricultural expertise, we could grow our own beautiful heirloom varietal corn, which we have.
Here we are.
I could distill it and make a beautiful bourbon product. So I came out of that class with that concept, that ground to glass concept.
Yeah.
And now I have to say, my husband was right.
Is this the first time that's been captured on live or
Maybe
audio?
the whole video audio combination. That
But
could
you
be it.
stated this before.
I have stated that
Okay.
before.
Just
Um,
does it hurt? Does it hurt every time?
I thought
A little bit.
It does
Oh, burn.
every time.
Burns more than a whiskey.
It bugs you
He's
every
got a little
time.
plaque on his wall.
He's got tick marks, dude.
That's,
He's got tick
on
marks.
this day, my wife admitted I was right, and then just
Yeah, but we have an experience called a barrel tasting experience, and when I was personally doing that, my
Mhm.
husband would schedule to come into the tasting at the right time to hear that.
I love it. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So now it's been captured on audio and video.
Well, now it's
He'll play it back over and over.
He
and
probably
over
will.
again.
Yeah, it's a soundbite. Yeah, it's his ringtone going forward at this point. So the one we're drinking. Nate? What do you think of this bottle here?
I love the finish on it. The
Yeah.
finish on it is very unique. I need to take a couple more sips to remind myself because I've been slow rolling on this glass.
Yeah, and I have too. But I was sipping on it, and obviously before I lit up the cigar, the cigar does go well, obviously with it, which I think Chris, you can probably touch on here on that process here in a minute. But I mean, it does really complement that. But the finish it's unique. This keeps you going back. I keep waiting for just because a little bit trying to like pick it apart a little bit, but I'm waiting for either a really like corn heavy finish or like this like almost like a bitter burn, and it never hits it.
Yeah.
It's one of those. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's kind of one of those that it kind of like it's building up as it finishes, and then it's just clean, and it doesn't really do because it's a slippery slope. I feel like sometimes on a palate is that you're doing like, oh, this tastes really good. You set down the glass, and then you kind of sit back, and then all of a sudden
You're waiting for that.
what's this? But this doesn't have it. This doesn't have it. It's a nice quick.
It's got like this fruit and mint combination together on the back end, on the finish of it. It's this little bit of fruitiness, sweetness, and then also this very vibrant mint that just hangs on the tongue.
I'm getting a little bit, not as much as some, but I'm still getting a little vanilla in mine.
Okay.
A little vanilla.
Did you say vanilla and lime?
In mine.
On mine.
Oh, in
Vanilla in
mine.
mine.
Okay.
Put the lime in.
Vanilla and lime. At least I hit a lime. That doesn't sound bad sometimes, but No,
That
in mine. I'm sorry, in mine. And this is the one that's available in Ohio.
Yes.
Not the core product.
Well, this is a core product.
It's a
It will
core
be.
product.
It is a core
Okay.
product. It is not the first bourbon we came out with,
Mhm.
but it is our first bottled in bond.
Okay.
So Ohio has our first bottled in bond,
Do you guys
and the only bottled in bond that's on the plans at the moment.
Okay. And do you source the rye then? I mean, you say that obviously it's got the corn, the Bloody Butcher corn, and you have the malted barley and the malted rye.
Yes,
Right.
I do source the malted rye
Mhm.
and the malted barley.
Okay. Yeah.
But the corn is 100% us.
And you say on the website also that it is like best you can locally sourced stuff,
Yes,
if possible.
as much as we can.
Yeah. Okay.
And like I
is
said,
neat.
the
Obviously, that's
corn
very
is
neat.
as local as within 10 miles of the distillery,
Okay.
all on our personal property, all on our personal estates.
So it's
Estate
family.
grown.
Yeah. Okay.
Family grown.
Wow. That's awesome.
So
So you had mentioned in your story you'd seen the animals,
Mhm.
sleeping in the yellow corn, eating the Bloody Butcher corn. Did you actually experiment as to how those two products make a different finished product? Did you experiment with that at all, or did you just sit there, look at that, and go, "We're using that. We're using Bloody Butcher"?
I wanted, since we were making this investment, I wanted to be unique.
Okay.
I wanted to have something that was a little bit different than everybody else. I'm right there in the middle of bourbon country, and all the big guys, they're making really good bourbons. So I was like, well, I can't compete. I can't compete on that level, but I can compete on something totally unique that is something so different that they really can't do, because you can't get this corn. You can't go to the big corn markets and get this because it's not there.
Do you know of anyone else using this type of corn?
There are a few people using it on some super small levels.
Yeah.
But we're, to my knowledge, we are the largest, and we are the only ones making it into vodka and moonshine
Okay.
also.
Wow.
So that makes us pretty unique.
It's very unique.
To our
absolutely.
knowledge, we are the largest grower of this Bloody Butcher corn in the country.
Wow. Yeah, like I said, it's all new to me. It's all new to me. Chris, let's get you involved here. You're
Yeah.
going, obviously Kentucky, Tennessee, and now Ohio. How, talk to us about, I'm looking at these bottles, that's all part of it. Like the marketing side, which you said, Joyce, your daughter is
My
kind
daughter.
of very much involved in, if not in control of. And so I'm looking at these bottles. The shape is unique. The whole presentation is rather interesting to me in a nice way. It stands out.
The texture on the bottle.
Texture on the bottle, the shape of the bottle, the obviously the very, very high quality and high end labels on there as well. You've got a little bit of looks like a gloss, is it embossed? I can't really see there, but it's got the kind of the gold leaf. Yeah, it's got some
foil.
embossment.
It's got some
Yeah.
foil, some
Gold
embossing.
foil, yeah. You got the story on here, but Chris, where do you come in here? How do you, when you got you're the newer among other new kids on the block, if you will, how do you distinguish your company from all the other? Let's face it, we're still in the middle of a bourbon, whiskey, spirits in general, but just a boom.
Yeah, pretty much what Joyce has been, hitting on, female owned, mother-daughter, that's even more rare than just female.
Mhm.
And then growing your own corn, even some of the big guys out there, they are supplementing their corn needs by growing some. I think Buffalo Trace has about 60, 80 acres, but that's a very small percentage of what they actually use. We grow 100% of the corn that we put into the bottles on our land. In Kentucky, I like to really emphasize to people that we are the most local bourbon that you're going to find, because all the corn is growing right there. Excuse me. Whereas the big guys, they're getting their corn from, Iowa, Indiana, Illinois, Wisconsin. But they're making it, they're distilling it in Kentucky. Yeah, sure. But that corn is from other states. So we are as local as you're going to get. And I like to really just kind of drive that home across, not just, Kentucky, but, Tennessee, Ohio, people care. I think over the pandemic, people really started to look at local small businesses and go, how can I support this? All the big guys, they're doing fine. They're getting bailed out. What is something that I can support that will come back around in my community? And this really kind of highlights that.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
How many acres of corn do you grow?
We're growing about 700 acres this year, and some of that, the vast majority of it is the Bloody Butcher, but we are also growing white heirloom corn and blue heirloom corn. One of those, the blue one specifically, my husband has kind of developed, so I call it Bruce's Blue.
It's a good name.
Yeah.
It's a good name. Alliteration's always good. I like that.
I like to use that a lot.
I like
yeah.
that a lot. Yeah. Blue corn, is that big in Kentucky? I think of Texas.
Texas, yeah.
You know about it a lot in Texas.
Yeah.
It is growing in Kentucky.
Yeah.
It's developing. There's a lot of white heirloom corn in
Sure.
Kentucky, but blue is a little bit more unusual.
Yeah,
But it's
that's what I thought.
growing. It's coming up. It's
Okay.
on the up and coming.
Yeah, I know at least from the whiskey side of things, there's some blue Texas,
Yeah.
whiskeys that I see.
Yeah,
as
that's made
far
with
as
Blue
that.
Hopi.
Oh, is it?
Mhm.
How is that different?
Well, Blue Hopi is a flint corn, so it's used for flour, whereas for bourbon we're using dent corn. So Hopi is one of the corns that my husband used to develop his Bruce's Blue, but it's also mixed with a dent corn, so it's actually dent.
Wow.
See, that's a
I'm
little
learning
dent
a
thing.
lot. No, I see the
thing
dents.
went,
I see 'em.
That's a dent. Yeah,
I know. I didn't know that was a thing with
Yeah.
corn.
it's actually a thing.
I can tell. we don't do as much of the live samples of the corn and the different grains, which I think is really kind of cool that you're bringing that around.
Yeah.
Now, will you do that as well as kind of the state manager, right? So you go around in kind of a rep in a sense, right?
Oh yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that's the role here. Do you bring any of this stuff like to some of the tastings and
Oh, yeah.
events and stuff? I mean, because it's definitely going to set your kind of presentation and the bottles apart.
Yeah.
I've been to tastings.
I think
They
that-
don't bring grains.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't have a corn lady.
They don't have a corn lady. Yeah,
They
that's
don't have
fair.
a corn lady.
Fair. It's a fair
Yeah, I
point.
think it's a great visual representation. Like when you're talking about the corn, it's like it's one thing to kind of hear somebody say some words to you and be like, okay, yeah, but like when you actually could see it, it's on the table in front of you as you're tasting the product, you can kind of put that together. You build that whole profile in your mind as you're looking at it and tasting it. It just kind of connects. And our bourbon, I put it in terms of kind of like wine, just because there's different varietals of wine and people are very familiar with that. It's like most bourbon is made with that yellow corn,
Mhm.
and ours isn't. It's made with a different kind of corn. If you had only had Merlot wine, for example, and somebody came in with a Cabernet, which is completely different flavor profile, that's kind of what this is. It's still bourbon. It's just a different kind of corn. So that flavor profile really is going to stand out. It's going to be very different. You can't go, all right, well, I like, Woodford. Like, how is this compared to Woodford? It's like, it doesn't. Like it, because it's
both
still
bourbon.
corn, but it's not
like
at
wine,
all
it's
the
different grapes, different varietals,
Yeah.
different. Like that's where you're going back with that. And then this you said was 70%,
70%.
70% of
Yeah.
that, and it's all
Actually,
the
75.
75%.
70,
and it's
yeah.
all the Bloody Butcher corn. Is that right?
75% Bloody Butcher corn.
Yeah.
Yes. Of
Yeah.
the corn, it's 100% that.
It's definitely unique. It's not something that you're gonna. I mean, and unique sometimes I think can be used describing, especially whiskeys, as a kind of a friendly or a non-confrontational way of describing something. In this sense, I'm using unique as it's different, but it's still that familiar bourbon flavor. Sometimes when we're having different whiskeys on here, bourbons, rye, what have you, we use unique, we use different, not as like a safety word, but at the same time, it's kind of like, it's not what I'm expecting when I think of, I'm going to try a new bourbon, whether it be a rye heavy or whatever. It's like, that's good. Like, we just had one on. I can't remember which one it was, but it was coming from a different area. And we had a bottle on, and I'm like,
Was it that one?
yeah, the Texas Garrison
Garrison
Brothers.
Brothers.
And it's like, they push Texas a lot in the marketing. And it's like, this is different. And it's like, it's not bad. It's just, it's not what I was expecting. When they should have almost left the bourbon part off of there and just said, Texas straight whiskey. Cause this tastes like Texas whiskey. That's not what you're expecting. This, when I use that word, it's because it is unique. And I think that the way you described it, Chris, of being kind of a different type of wine, different, like it's the same nuts and bolts going into this, but it's just different. It's good. It's
yeah,
good.
I mean, I think that people, obviously you guys included, are really looking for all of the new bourbons out there and trying to find like, hey, like what's something new and different, because all the other stuff, the big sought after names like Van Winkle and Weller's and Blanton's and all them. They are so hard to find, but all these people are spending all these hours in liquor stores, so they're spending it looking for something new, something unique and different. And I feel like this is right there for those bourbon collectors that want something that is unlike anything else on their shelf. This is it. Like, and because it's bonded, you can do a nice little like at-home flight comparison with other bonded products, so you can see exactly what this brings to the table compared to whatever bonded bourbon you might have like sitting on your back bar at home.
Yeah. Real quick, kind of throw these questions in there. Again, that's that whole thing of not being able to see. Try that one. How many states are you guys in? And Dimmick asks, how many states are they in? Also, love this story.
Cool. We are in Kentucky, Indiana, Illinois, Missouri, Tennessee, and now Ohio and London, England.
London,
There's
England.
There's the wild
Yeah.
card. There's the wild card. All right.
It's a long drive.
Yeah.
It's a long drive.
Takes a boat ride or something
That's
too.
right. That's right. And then Ray, who
I was about to say that might be the closest one for
If
Ray.
I could kind of elaborate
sure.
a little more on that. So we do work with a online retail store called Sillbox, which is based in DC, and DC just has different liquor laws. Of course, each state is going to be very different.
Sure.
But DC, because it's not really a state, it's not exactly federal, their avenues of shipping direct to customers is a little bit different. So they're able to ship to about 40 states.
but you have to do it through them.
You have to do it through their website, through
Okay.
sillbox.com. And they have all three of these products, as well as some of our vodkas as well. So,
Okay.
For those people that, aren't in that geographical footprint that we're currently in right now that may be watching this, you can go to that website and you can order and have that shipped to your house.
And now
Excellent
does
catch.
jepthacreed.com, does that, where it says where to buy, does that include that as a link
that-
or no? Can you
I
direct it through
believe,
there?
yeah. If
Okay.
you go to the bottom, like once you scroll past the map. So if you go to the where to buy page, which is really convenient for anybody looking to, just drive down the street and see exactly if they have the product that you're looking for, put your zip code in. It's kind of like, one of the great things about OHLQ, which hi, Ann, is that they have like an up-to-date map that you can see what the sort of real-time inventory, which you don't see in other states because of the way that everything is controlled here in Ohio. It's really beneficial that you can pull up the app and you can go and be like, hey, I'm looking for this specific bottle. I want the Jeptha Creed rye heavy bourbon. Like, where can I find it? And it's going to tell you, hey, this store has 2 bottles on hand or 5 bottles or whatever. That's super beneficial. That's kind of what our where to buy page is,
Okay.
just without being as maybe informative as far as inventory.
Doesn't break it down that far, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, no, that's good. I had another question from Ray, who oddly enough is originally from the UK. He's listening from Vietnam, actually, in the morning.
Oh my!
Yeah.
It's Thursday morning.
Some morning bourbon.
Wow.
Oh, yeah,
Cigars.
he's every week.
He was a little tardy, and sometimes we are too, so I'll give him a pass. Maybe you covered it already, but Jeptha Creed, where does that name come from?
Oh, awesome. Beautiful question. Well, I talked about the farm, what my husband bought when he was 18 and that we still live on. Well, that farm is at the foothills of some hills in Kentucky called the Jeptha Knobs. And those knobs were named by Squire Boone and Daniel Boone when they came in and explored Kentucky in the late 1700s.
That's amazing.
Yeah, they were attracted to those hills because there was a salt lick up there.
Okay.
So that's where the buffalo and the deer and the turkey were. So I like to say it was the grocery store of their day.
Makes sense.
And we found documentation that says they named him Jeptha after a biblical warrior in Judges 11.
Okay.
So we want to be all about our local history, heritage, and culture.
I would say it's going back there. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got my personal family history right there.
Yeah.
That's where I live. It's where I raised my kids.
Mhm.
I've got local and state history through the Boones. I've got Bible history connected to us.
Wow.
We think Jeptha is perfect. And then Creed is our promise to stand by honoring those values as we grow.
And there's a Scotland ties as well.
Yes.
which is interesting because of all the whiskey ties and everything else.
Yeah.
But is it on the bottle or is it?
It's on the bottle. Here on the bourbon bottle, we traced my husband. I traced my husband's genealogy back to Scotland
Mhm.
because I did a lot of Ancestry.com prior to the distillery. And like I said, I traced him back to Scotland. And the ancestor that came across came in 1715. He was fighting with the Jacobites in the first Jacobite uprising, and the Jacobites lost. And this ancestor got captured. But he wasn't killed. The king put him on a ship and sent him across the Atlantic to become an indentured servant in the colonies.
Okay.
Under those circumstances, he couldn't go home and get the crest, so it stayed over there. When we first started the distillery, we thought Autumn would be our master distiller. So we sent her over there. She was underage, and there was no place here for her to go to school and learn the art and science of brewing and distilling adult beverages.
Yep.
So we sent her to Edinburgh, Scotland, where she studied it over there.
Wow.
And she learned lots of things while she was over there. One of the things she learned is she does not like chemistry.
Okay. Sent her all the way to Scotland to find that out.
Sent her all the way to Scotland to find that out.
Probably the nomenclature that always screws her up.
Yeah, she said it went in one ear and out the other. It just didn't register.
Organic chemistry first.
All of those, yeah. So she came home, finished her degree in her true love and true passion, which is marketing and sales. Very important to what we're doing here. Much more important, I think.
Fills a void, possibly,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, the other thing she found while she was in Scotland was that family motto and crest. And that motto is Ne Ouble, which is ancient Scottish Celtic for don't forget. She called home, told my husband about it, and he got literal goosebumps
Oh, that's cool.
because he can remember his great-grandfather talking to him and saying, now, boy, don't you forget where you come from. So it was a family value that had come up through the generations, even though the crest got left back in Scotland.
That's
So-
a cool story.
We found that to be very powerful,
Yeah.
very much about who we are and what we want to be about. So we have put Ne Ouble,
Oh, I didn't see this.
Ouble on the bottom of our bottle, on the foundation of our bottle.
Oh, all right.
So you can Ne Ouble and not forget to get your next bottle.
It's good. When you turn it
Yeah,
over.
if you could read that.
Well, yeah, when you pour out the last.
That's
Yeah, that
right.
last
Oh, there
little
it
bit.
is. I got to remember to get another one.
Ne
There it is. There's
Ouble.
the reminder.
So there's a story for everything here. And it's legit as opposed to some other companies
No,
where things are made up.
Yeah,
But I like this. I like this a lot.
we have a lot of love in these bottles.
are we going to another?
Can we go to another
Do we want to go another bottle? I don't want. I'm looking at the time. I know you got to hit the road here, so I didn't know. Are we opening another, or do we want to do another pour of this? What would you like to do?
Well, let's go ahead and have another one of these
Okay.
because it will be coming to Ohio.
Yes.
I very much intend for it to come to Ohio. So you
and
might as well
Dimmick,
be
if you're
introduced
still
to it.
listening out there.
And you know where to send it? My store. Send
There
it to
you
my
go.
store.
So this other
Well,
one,
this helps here. There's a comment from Ann for you.
oh really?
Yeah. One of Ann's earlier comments was, "This lady reminds me of me," because she's got that engineering background.
Great minds think alike.
That's right. She also votes for another pour, so I like that.
Well, here we go. Here we go. So this is the 4-grain bourbon. This is the first one we came out with. We did come out with this when it was straight. So I know all your audience knows about straight. So it came out at 2 years in the barrel.
Okay.
This was in 2019. It has gotten to age up as we have aged up, being the distillery.
Mhm.
And like I said, it is 4-grain. So what is in this bottle that we are tasting today is right at 3 years and 9 months.
Okay.
This will be as young as it ever is. The next batch that I'm actually blending right now is going to be 4, and it will be 4 from now on.
That's the goal there.
That is the goal.
4 is the hard. Yeah. No.
Four
We've seen that with other, younger distilleries as well, where they start out, it's the 2-year age stage.
2 year
and
if
then-
they're not sourcing it first,
yeah,
right?
If they're not sourcing it, yeah.
Yeah, 2 years is
At least
usually the
2
starting
years,
point.
and
Yeah.
then they
Yeah.
move up, and then finally they can do
Yeah.
the 4-year.
So this, like I said, it's in this bottle that we are tasting right here today is about 3 years and 9 months. The next batch that I'm working on as we speak is going to be 4 over 4, about 4.5, and then it will be 4 from here on out.
Mhm.
So we will be changing the age statement on this bottle.
Okay. The
So-
4 grains. Can we break that down?
So the 4 grains on this one, this is 70% of the Bloody Butcher corn.
Mhm.
This is
Assume that was in there.
15% of the malted rye.
Okay.
It is 10% malted wheat
Yep.
and
that makes
5% malted barley.
Okay.
sense. I can taste that.
And it's 98 proof
Okay. Why 98?
because it's
Just
where I
curious.
liked it best when we released
That's
it.
a
straight.
good answer.
Mm.
That's the best answer.
That's why.
Yeah, I mean, because we've talked about other distillery products where they've literally sat there and like, all right, here it is at barrel strength. Then we're going to proof it down 2 points, try it, proof it down 2 points, and they keep going. And all of a sudden they'll hit a point where like, nope, go back up. So
Yeah.
they hit that sweet spot.
That's kind of what I did. I had it at several different proofs and then just tasted it through all of those proofs. And it's like, well, where do I like it the best? And 98 is where I liked it the best.
It's sweeter at the finish for sure.
It's that wheat.
Yeah.
It's sweeter, but it's ironic. It actually on the finish, I think it adds just a little bit more heat than the bonded.
Mhm.
It's sweeter, I think, on the palate, but a little bit more heat on the back end. Even though
You get more heat.
I do for
Hmm.
me, even though it's 2 proof points less. But yeah, that wheat provides a little bit more sweetness up front for me. But then, and maybe not heat, but just like the finish on it is a little brighter.
Yeah. I would say it's a little brighter.
And that
Starts-
malting process really adds that sort of malted kind of sweetness that usually you would find in like Irish, Scotch, European style whiskeys. So that's what I try to tell people when I'm tasting that 4 grain is that it's going to be a little bit softer and sweeter compared
Mhm.
to that rye. And using that malted grain really kind of helps, make it taste not as, I say young. I'm going to use quotation marks and say young, just because a lot of people think that bourbon has to be aged, into double digits, which it doesn't necessarily have to.
No.
If you use really good ingredients, but that malting process kind of takes the edge off the youthfulness of the secondary grains, so it's not as grassy and green flavored, so it doesn't taste as young.
Yeah, you don't hear the malted I don't hear it very often other than the barley.
Yeah.
You don't hear
It
malted.
costs more.
It costs more, isn't? Yeah, the
Yep.
procedure.
Yeah, there's an additional
process.
step to get the malted rye and malted wheats, just like malted barley. It
Mhm.
said to get that malted piece of it, that process, you have to put that grain in water and then let that seed germinate.
Okay.
And then halt it and dry it.
Yep.
Right there.
Hmm.
So that germination process actually converts part of that seed over into those enzymes. And that's what you want with the malt. And that's what you're trying to achieve with malt because malted barley has so much of it.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same process and the same things happen with when you malt wheat and malt rye. It's just those enzymes are not as high as they are in barley. So if you're malting it just for those enzymes, well, then it's not worthwhile
Got it.
to have because there's lower amounts in the wheat and the rye. But what I love about it is the flavor profile that we get and that it just kind of blends beautifully with this Bloody Butcher corn and just gives you that earthiness undertone that just I think supports it all.
Steve, you may not remember, but we've actually had a rye on here. It was a 95.5 rye,
Mhm.
but about 30 to 35% of that rye was malted.
Okay. What was that one?
That was the Three Boys Farms.
Oh, okay.
Okay, just
It
right
was
next
like it was
door.
like it was like a 60, 65, and then 30 or 35 malted rye.
I gotcha.
The 5% malted barley.
Good memory on that. This is definitely, like you said, softer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting to me because where I was saying that finish on the rye bourbon was kind of it was like that, it didn't really stay. It stayed on the palate, but this kind of my mouth is watering more. It's kind of salivating a little bit more. That finish just kind of keeps it churning. When I said I thought it had like a little bit of a sweeter I don't say vanilla butterscotch, but there's something there where it's like a little bit of that like kind of lingering on my palate there that definitely is very pleasant. and easy drinking, like dangerously easy drinking.
Yeah. Both of these are definitely they're definitely punching below their proof.
Yeah, that will say
For
that's
what their
yeah.
proof is, 98 and 100 proof so far.
Drinks lighter.
They drink lighter than that.
This one for sure.
Kind of like some of the single barrels of other stuff that I've shared with you.
Yeah.
I usually on Friday nights when I'm at the cigar shop, I'll bring a bottle of whiskey and I'll do blind pours for a couple of the staff that I work with, and I get them to guess the proof. And one recently, the gentleman guessed 90 proof, and it was 126.6.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Maybe he was just drinking moonshine before or something. I don't know. Like
It's this also on the glass. It's like it looks lighter in the glass. Obviously not in the bottle, but as I down here, but it definitely hangs on the glass. I think that's kind of part of why I feel like it's kind of just sitting on my
Very oily.
like it's like a mouthfeel that's just like kind of hanging out for a while. Joyce, what do you
Yeah.
think of this one? Being the creator of it, what do you?
Well, I love it.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
I figured that part, but I mean, like,
It's
how do
whiskey
you?
on the palate.
Well,
What do you think?
I really like it. I really enjoy it. And the 4, once it hits 4, I think it's going to just be fabulous.
Mhm.
I do enjoy the viscosity and that mouthfeel that you have with it.
Yeah,
I think it just sits there on the palate really, really, really nice for a while. And then on the finish, you get that smoothness. Really, there's
Mhm.
a little bit of a punch and pepper with it,
yeah, a touch of it. Yeah,
A
I'm
touch.
getting that. Yeah,
a touch of that, and then it hangs out for a little while. So
yeah. I'm right there with you. This
I
is
think
nice.
that the corn really adds something extra that is kind of undefinable right now. I mean, I'm sure maybe if there was a chemist that could sit down and really kind of break down all the nuances of the difference between like the yellow tint corn and this heirloom corn, you would see that this has a little bit more like oils and fats in there, and we non-chill filter.
do.
no chill filter.
Yeah. So for those that maybe aren't totally aware with chill filtering, it's just a way of like after the fact, like stripping the liquid of all the congeners and basically the body. You take away a lot of the body when you do that.
A lot of
You
the
want
fatty acids.
yeah.
We talked about that recently when we had Aaron Harris,
Okay.
the master distiller at Green River.
Yeah.
He talked about the whole chill filter,
Mhm.
which their stuff's not.
Yeah. A lot of the smaller distilleries like ourselves will non-chill filter. I mean, for one, it's an added cost. But two, like you want to retain that flavor as much as possible. That's what you want to hang on to. The bigger guys will do it because their stuff is, if it sits in like a cold storage area for too long, you'll get that fatty acids will collect, and there will be like an unfavorable color and sediment like bits floating in your bourbon on the shelf. That's not what they want.
Correct.
So,
Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah. So they're chill filtering, but you're stripping out all that viscosity, all that sort of flavor that sticks to your palate.
Well, definitely that speaks to what I'm getting from it with that lingering, nice, smooth finish. Again, I don't want to just say vanilla, but there's something just kind of a really pleasant food flavor there as it just sits on the palate.
Get a
Is it-
little bit of butterscotch.
Butterscotch is probably more accurate. It's nice Werther's.
I knew it.
There's nothing wrong with it. I think it is like that. Nate used to keep Werther's originals in his desk drawer.
Mhm.
We had a whole tangent conversation one time. That's like a old man candy that's in his pocket that's warm, and he gives it to his grandkid.
Yeah. And then I was at the cigar shop and happened to have a couple in my work bag. And
That makes sense.
Ryan Newman, he's like, I've never had a Werther's. I'm like, here you go. And Steve brings up that old commercial with the old
They
man.
actually
giving his
made that-
grandson
that was it.
Werther's. I'm
That's
like,
it.
Son of a.
You were the granddad in that one.
Yeah, no kidding.
Sorry.
It's the gray in the beard.
All right, let's talk about the cigar while we still have you guys here. So we're smoking something that you can only get at the distillery.
That's correct.
Okay. And who wants to describe this?
Chris will.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah. Thank you, Joyce. No, this is a distillery only cigar selection. It's not distributed even in the state of Kentucky. It's not sold in cigar stores there. So you have to come see us. This is just one of the many reasons why you should come see us.
Absolutely.
But what we do is we work with a local, kind of local to us. It's Frankfort, Kentucky. So it's about 20, 30 minutes from the distillery. There's a cigar rolling shop called Kentucky Gentleman Cigar Company. And what they do is we give them one of our 4-grain barrels that was sitting for 4 years with the 4-grain bourbon. It's obviously empty when they receive it. They take the top off. They put a bottle of the 4-grain. They empty that into the bottom of the barrel. They put this grate over top of that, basically separating the liquid from the leaves. They put in Dominican and Colombian leaves.
Colombian. Okay.
Yes, which is the filler and the binder.
Okay.
They let that sit, I think, for about 30 days or so.
Mhm.
I'd have to double check on those.
Typically, it's not for a very long time.
Yeah, it's not super long.
Mhm.
So then they take that and they roll it. They use a Connecticut shade tobacco, which is new to me. I'm not huge in
The
cigars.
wrapper
I
leaf,
could
yeah.
definitely appreciate it,
Yeah.
but it was definitely news to me to find out that there is a tobacco grown in Connecticut in the Connecticut River Valley. Yeah. And yeah, we use that as the wrapper, and then we put those finished cigars back into that barrel on top of that grate and let it age for just a little bit longer to get a little bit more of that bourbon flavor.
Yeah. So, but it's not like infused.
No,
This is
no.
all barrel aged stuff, right? The
Yeah.
tobacco is all barrel aged as opposed to infused. Well, I think there's confusion sometimes when people will look for a whiskey cigar. This definitely has some of that in the flavor. Would you agree, Nate?
Yeah.
I mean, like just the aroma had a lot of that to it, but it definitely wasn't like a heavily infused. Once I lit it up and started smoking it, it's not like a whiskey flavored cigar.
No.
I mean, it's got just that kind of the notes of it. That's the first time I've heard that procedure as far as you put some of the whiskey back in the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah.
So that's really that's different. I've never heard that before. Normally it's just you use one of your barrels and you age part of the tobacco in there. Sometimes they finish it by doing the rolled cigars in there as well, but you can't do it for too long because that weight will definitely play with it as far as, heating up a little bit, and just, especially once they're rolled, if that can mess up that shape of the cigar. But,
there is one cigar company that we've had the owner of the company on, where they actually talk about what they take the actual bourbon and spray the inside of the barrel,
yes.
and then they age the tobacco in it. But yeah, that's all they're doing is just spraying the charred wood on the inside.
Yeah, just to get that essence.
Mhm.
So that's cool. I mean, again, for those that have had the different, whiskey, we were talking that what was the company called that does the
It's
cigars?
Kentucky Gentleman.
And we were talking before the podcast that likely they're the ones when you go to other distilleries, that's got to be the one name in the game down in that area, because it's not a big cigar rolling part of the country.
You would think
No,
it would be,
no.
though, wouldn't you? With all the
Kentucky?
burley that we've grown. I mean,
So that's more like pipe tobacco.
we can grow other tobacco too.
Well, you don't need to, because you sell. I mean, it's very predominant. Burley for sure
Yeah, it
is a big pipe
definitely
tobacco. So yeah, Kentucky. Yeah, that you guys are known for that. The cigar tobacco is typically grown, not Kentucky or Connecticut for sure, but mainly in like the Dominican, Nicaragua, Honduras.
That's what I've always heard. But
Yeah.
if Connecticut can grow it, darn, we can too.
Connecticut's got a lot of that history that you guys have, as far as, on the Kentucky side of this, Connecticut, that river valley where, Chris, you were saying you didn't even realize, not only was there's a lot of history and heritage in the growing of tobaccos that people use there, but once that Connecticut seed, not only the Connecticut shade grown, which what they do to keep that lighter is they literally drape the fields with cheesecloth to keep it out of the sun, in a sense. That's
Oh,
why it's
really?
called shade grown. Gets that lighter shade of color, and then therefore also isn't typically as strong of tobacco as far as nicotine level, because then that will shelter some of the nutrients from it. And that's that shade grown as opposed to sun grown. They also do in Connecticut broadleaf, which is a very hardy tobacco. and typically used as like a Maduro wrapper, which is a darker shade wrapper. But now a lot of that Connecticut seed is grown elsewhere because it's cheaper to grow. You know, they have better growing seasons than they do in Connecticut. So Connecticut definitely is still pumping out as much as they can, but we've had also such a cigar boom growth in the last decade, really, especially in the last few years again. But that they have now, when you see like a Connecticut shade, not 9 times out of 10, but probably 7 times out of 10, it's going to be an Ecuadorian Connecticut grown. So they transplant that seed and then they grow down in Ecuador, now Nicaragua, among other places. But it's, yeah, there's a lot of that history there too in Connecticut.
That's interesting. So interesting.
Wow.
I saw someone say Buffalo Trace's cigar.
Happy Habit too. Buffalo Trace, yeah. So yeah, and that's the other thing is the bourbon craze really pushed it in the cigar world. So like with you guys having this, we talked about like Buffalo Trace. Buffalo Trace now has like their own, you know, that they sell elsewhere, like they distribute elsewhere. That someone else is making it. Maker's Mark, I think you mentioned, Chris. There's that cigar, that Ted cigar. That's a company that makes that in the tubes, and that's widely, distributed. This is kind of something that's very unique. And, and it's that the procedure, the process that you mentioned I have not heard yet. Like I said, what do you think of the cigar, Nick?
That's cool.
So the cigar comes across kind of that mild to medium portfolio for me, which makes sense having the Connecticut shade wrapper and then also having Colombian tobacco in there as well, because we've had.
I was not expecting that either.
I wasn't, but we've had a Colombian cigar on here where it utilized tobacco from Colombia. It was a very mild smoke that unfortunately also got overpowered by a very mild whiskey. That one we were like, we're having this whiskey. We got to go light on the cigar. An 86 proof whiskey finished in port barrels overpowered that cigar. This one. No, the construction's great. Like it's burnt evenly the whole time. It's got good flavor. Not much spice through the retrohale, Steve, blowing it out through the nose.
I get a little pepper.
I think if I hit it too quick, that second one will definitely get some pepper through the nose. If I go back to it too quick, but no, it's smooth and a lot of smoke comes off of it. A lot of smoke, which is where the flavor is. So the thicker the cloud of smoke, the more flavor it's on. That's on your palate. Just like the oilier a whiskey, the more it's going to sit on your palate. The thicker the smoke on a cigar, the more it's going to sit on your palate, because that's where that flavor is, in that smoke.
Yeah, Lou, who's listening, he says he's been to Kentucky Gentleman and that they do make the cigars for the Buffalo Trace shop.
Okay, cool.
So that makes sense.
That's good to know.
You're in good company there too.
But I think the one that they're making for the Buffalo Trace shop is different than the ones. It is different. Yeah, because the ones that are made that are out on the market, like the Tinderbox has, those Buffalo Trace cigars, those are made in the Dominican Republic under General Cigars.
Correct. Yeah, I'd agree with this. The construction is really nice. This is a torpedo shape, probably a 52, maybe 54 ring gauge. Do you know, Chris?
Unfortunately, I'm not totally
I'd
sure.
say
on the
about
measurement.
52. That's the
diameter
of
Yeah.
it. But yeah, the construction's nice. It does have a nice draw. You never know what to expect from a project like this. And you had said, Chris, that you guys are hoping to do some more cigar projects as well.
Yeah. So obviously, we just use the 4 grain for this particular cigar, but we've got 3 bourbons in total. So we want to, kind of experiment with that and see what those would, taste like. And as far as I know, we're not going to expand any like retail distribution with that. That will only be at the distillery.
I see it now in my head, right? That this is a great gift shop item where if you do you guys do like a sampler pack of like 200 mils or anything like that?
No, we just have the 750s.
Okay. I'm just seeing the package. I don't know how big it is. You got the 200 mils of like, say, these 3 bottles or whatever it is.
5-pack.
And then you have the 3 cigars in the same pack.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then come on, like that's something.
That'd be cool.
Dudes would love it. Girls would love it. And then anyone that like, I have someone that they like whiskey and cigars. You're like, right over here. Like, this is the whole thing. Like, you can give them this. Like, you won't find this anywhere else because no one else does that. And I think that would be a cool thing, whether it's 2 or 3, whatever it is, or even a sample one, like the 1-in-1 of the 4 grain right now. That's just like a little gift set. I think that would kill it.
Yeah, that's an excellent idea. We can do
Look
that.
forward to seeing that down in your gift
We
shop.
can do that for sure.
No, I think it would be really
Oh, the
neat because it
Steve
does.
special.
There you go. I love it. That's right. All right.
But sorry, just speaking of the distillery and like special items,
do.
you know, just I recommend to everybody obviously to come to the distillery. Sometimes Joyce will find a nice honey barrel, you know, a nice barrel that, you know, when we're blending, like let's say the 4 grain, for example, we'll find a really nice barrel that just stands out amongst all the other ones. And Joyce will go ahead and do kind of like a single bottling of that. Which is only available at the distillery. So if you're looking for something like completely unique, you know, you like the core stuff, and if you get the red, white, and blue, you like that, you know, I recommend if you want to try something that is not available on your typical store shelf in either in any of the states that we're in, you know, come to the distillery because you never know, like, you know, what you're going to find sitting there.
So it's like it's a 4 grain, but a single barrel.
It could be rye. It could be a 4 grain, or it could be a rye.
Okay, but it is
Either
just
way.
a
But it's a
single,
single
barrel,
barrel.
like, and you did this many bottles of it, and it's only available.
Yeah, we have a barrel tasting experience that
Okay.
you can come to the distillery, and we will take you to. We don't call them rick houses; we call them our barrel barns.
Okay.
We'll take you to a barrel barn, and you can sit in our leather chairs. They're actually recliners, and we ask you not to fall asleep.
That's a big ask.
It's
That's a big ask.
But we have a
Especially
barrel
after you've been
there.
drinking a bunch of whiskey, like,
Mm.
One of these honey barrels, like Chris was talking about, that I've picked out, it'll be there, and we'll thief from that barrel, and you get to taste it right there. And then if you want that barrel, you can get a bottle to take home with you. And then when we can't thief out of it anymore, we will harvest that barrel, bottle it, and have it at the gift shop.
So that's just like a one bottle. Like I could go in there and just thief out a bottle, or you would do it for you. Like it's
Yeah,
not like
with his experience, you could get one
Wow.
bottle. Yes,
How often do you do that?
we do it every every Wednesday,
It's weekly.
Thursday,
Yeah.
Weekly.
Thursday through Sunday.
Okay, and that's different than the normal tours. There's different
Yes.
things you can do. Okay,
Yes.
Yeah, we stopped doing the normal tours during COVID.
yeah.
We kind of revamped. I mean, I think a lot of people did. And our distillery, while, you know, we're kind of big for, you know, who we are, we're not as big as, you know, somebody like Buffalo Trace, for example. So what we've done is like we've created a free tasting experience, and you go up to our tasting bar during our hours, Thursday through Sunday, and every 30 minutes you can hear the story. You're led by a sort of tour guide, if you will, and they'll tell you about, like, you know, where Joyce and Bruce got started, and, you know,
Cool
how
story.
they came to be, and then you get to try some of the bourbons, and that's free to the public. Like, you know, you can come in. We recommend that you
Have
make a
reservations.
reservation
Yeah.
just to guarantee your spot, because it might sell out. So, you know, if I don't want people to drive, you know, 3-4 hours and then get there and be like, oh, it's all sold out for today. But, you know, go on there. It doesn't cost anything, which is, I think, is incredible, because all the distilleries are charging.
Wait,
kind
it
of an
doesn't
arm and
cost
leg.
anything?
No, it's
No,
free.
it's free to the public. Yeah.
The
Obviously,
barrel
you have to be
tasting
20.
experience costs.
Yes.
What
the
does
barrel-
that cost?
That's $45 a person.
Still.
And then
And then what's a bottle cost if you want that?
100
100. Okay.
Yeah.
Still. Jeez.
barrel proof from
cask
okay.
strength. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's another thing too, is
Yeah.
that it's cask strength, which all of these obviously have been proofed down to their appropriate, you know,
Yeah.
bottling proof. And we do, if you are feeling a little bit adventurous in your mixology skills, we do classes for making cocktails with the vodka
Oh, wow.
and bourbon as well.
You spend all day there.
Yes, absolutely.
Or you can just come and hang out. We have a small like cafe kitchen. You can just come and buy a cigar and get a cocktail and go to our back patio, which has, like, you know, typical kind of like back patio bar games like cornhole and whatnot, or just sit in a rocking chair and
Enjoy.
watch the
Just
Shelbyville
sounds
sunset.
terrible. I don't get it. I don't know how you guys are in business. This is just, this will never take off. This is awesome. This is really cool. What else do we need to know here?
I got one more bourbon for you to take a look
Okay.
at. This one is,
Keep giving you the out if you need to get on the road. So I keep giving you that out, and I love this.
well, I'm about out of bourbon. So.
Okay, that's fair.
This is the red, white, and blue.
Okay.
So this one we opened to the public on November 11th of 2016, which was Veterans Day. And we didn't realize it at the time, but Veterans Day is always November 11th. So we will always share our anniversary with Veterans Day, which
I
actually
love it.
works out beautifully.
It's very cool.
So for our first anniversary, my husband had that year, he had grown the blue heirloom corn. So I had some Bruce's blue. I have the red. and I sourced a white heirloom. We are now growing all of them ourselves.
You're doing the white as well now.
I'm
on
doing the
farm.
white
Okay.
as well. Yes. So for our first anniversary, I distilled a red corn, white corn, blue corn, bourbon mash from scratch. So all those 3 corns are together from cooking, fermenting, distilling all the way through.
Okay.
Then this is the same mash bill as the rye heavy bourbon that you had at the first one.
Okay.
So it's the same mash bill, exact same, malted rye, all that. But the corns are different. Rather than being 100% red bloody butcher corn like the malted, like the rye here, this one is 1/3 red bloody butcher, 1/3 white, and 1/3
Oh, wow. Third each.
1/3 each.
Interesting.
It makes a flavor difference. So
All right.
if you want to see the difference those corns can make, we've got a sample right here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Twist your arm.
I guess.
Oh, you got me in an arm bar. Standing arm bar. Ah.
Yeah.
Another cool thing about this in working with veterans in before COVID, we did actually have tours where you came through the distillery, and we had barrels of this sitting next to our still.
Yes. Thank
And
you very much.
at the end, so it was kind of like at the end of the tour,
Thank
right
you.
before we got to tasting. We asked that if anybody in the tour group was a veteran or active duty military personnel,
What's
they
that?
could sign the barrel. So the barrels have been signed by people in the military, mostly vets. We also asked that when they do sign it, that they take a picture of it. That way they have some sort of record of the barrel number, because you can scan the little QR code on the side of the bottle here, or you can go to our website and you could see which barrel numbers are in this batch. And now that we've bottled this, a portion of the proceeds go to, this year is the Veterans Club of Kentucky, which is a Louisville-based charity that does equine therapy for vets with PTSD.
That's
so they go out
amazing.
to like horse parks, and they go riding,
May I
and
see
just
that bottle?
general
Absolutely.
caretaking. So
How many barrels typically will go in this?
About 30.
30. Okay. Decent batch.
Yes.
And
So
you said once a year release.
once a year.
on
I'll get
Veterans Day.
On Veterans Day, November 11th. So
And is
next
this only
batch.
at the distillery?
No, this
Okay.
is distributed in Kentucky. A lot of the other places we're distributed at.
So it'll hit shelves as it goes forward.
Yes.
I have to work tomorrow. It's gonna be fun.
All right, buddy.
Actually, I have to get blood drawn tomorrow, so God only knows what's gonna happen.
Are you taking blood tests or just
Yeah,
giving
it's
some?
a check just for yearly check.
Oh, perfect. They won't be skewed.
yeah, so once
Might
this
be
is
high.
gone for this year, which we still have a little bit left, as we're getting to about 6 months away. Let's see. Yeah, I guess it is pretty much 6 months now that's been out. We are pretty close to being out completely for this year, and then won't come back until
Yeah.
November 11th, and that'll be batch 2. And the charity will change. It'll always be a vet-based charity, though.
That's really neat. And you went, back on this. Is this the same? So you put the sticker over the second part of the story, right? That's what it looks like. Oh no, it's a
Yeah.
little different.
It's a little bit different.
A little different. But you have your family motto, so you have the family history a little bit here. And then you have the sticker on there for the Veterans Club, which you said will change every year.
Yes.
Which does, still it goes with the branding. 100 proof. You see the QR code,
Yes.
which you guys did nicely. Sometimes the QR code, people put it on their stuff. It's too big or it's gaudy. You guys did. I like that.
Yeah,
In honor of those who served before me is on there.
Yes. And if you wanted to get a bottle and you wanted to
Mhm.
give it as a gift to someone, you can say that this was bottled for that warrior.
Yeah.
You put their name on it and give it to him as a gift. So
That's
it's to them as their warrior.
really
as that
Did you
neat.
warrior.
guys release that last year? Did you have like a line at your distillery waiting for that?
We had a good sized group. Yes.
Okay.
It was a lot of fun that day.
When you say good size, like ballpark number,
Oh, I was going to say like 300 or 400 people.
that's
Good size.
Yeah.
That's a good
And
Wow.
I think this year, because we made it into like an event, like we had obviously some vets out there, and
We had the old color guard and
yeah,
Oh, that's so
yeah,
So, yeah.
salutes and it was really cool.
it was a huge release, and I think this year will be even bigger because now people know that we're doing it. You know,
Oh, it'll
that
be a
it's
new thing.
like a thing.
Yeah,
now.
it's a
People are
thing
Like, oh,
now.
okay.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
That's you're right. It is different. Certainly different from what we just came from, the 4-grain.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. It's getting back towards the beginning. I'm trying to remember how that would compare to it, but it's very balanced.
Yes.
Is that, I know that's really, really generic thing to say, but that's the first thing that comes across. What do you think, Nate?
I think the finish on this one has, I think it's a little heavier than the first one, but a little sweeter finish than what the rye bourbon did.
So I don't know if it's
Yeah.
the different corns, you know, I assume it might be, but it's a little bit closer to what I would expect from like a 100 proof Kentucky bourbon. You know, it's not as unique
it's
as
not as different. It's not as to me, it doesn't have as much of the earthiness. Like the Bloody Butcher corn throws that earthiness that the malted rye just goes wonderful with.
yeah.
With the white and the blue corn, they don't have that intensity of the earthiness
That's really
with them.
balanced.
They're a little bit sweeter. They're a little bit closer to, well, the white especially. It's a little bit closer to the yellow with even a little bit less flavoring than the yellow.
Yeah.
And the blue just goes a little bit sweet.
Well, and
So
Steve had
those two just blend
Yeah.
and balance that Bloody Butcher out a little bit.
Yeah, on the first one, because it's all Bloody Butcher corn, that's what Steve was talking about with that uniqueness and it being different in a good way.
Yeah.
This one, because you're utilizing, you know, a third of that amount of corn and blending it with the other two corns, yeah, it does take away what made the first one different and makes it a little bit more like, you know, what people sometimes expect from a Kentucky bourbon.
Yeah. It's a good bourbon. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. It's what's the age on that then?
At least 4.
It's at least 4. It's almost
it a-
5.
Is it?
It's
Yes.
8. It's on it. It's on the label.
Yeah, it's almost 5.
What does this bottle go for?
That one is going for 75.
75. So 49 in the state of Ohio.
Yes.
The rye bourbon.
Yes.
Similar,
That should be 49 when it comes to Ohio also.
checking in the same. And then this would be a little higher.
Yes.
The single barrel from the program you have
Mhm.
at the distillery, they're coming in at $100 for a cast strength,
Yes.
which is very fair. Besides the vodka, what's the other spirit?
Moonshine.
Moonshine, which comes in multiple flavors, I saw.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, it's funny. I was watching that again, the video that you guys made talking about like the locally sourced thing. And I don't know who it was. I don't know if it was your husband or not, but like someone's like reaching up to a tree. And I'm like, we're talking, my mind's thinking, you know, corn and stuff. And like
It doesn't grow
reaching
on
up
the
a
tree.
tree, you know, like that. And then it like pans to like 4 or 5 different moonshines. I'm like, oh, I
That
got
would
it.
be for the apple pie
I
moonshine.
got it. I was like, should have just watched the whole video before I raised my hand for questions. Do you have any other products that we need to be aware of that might be hitting Ohio or that you can get? I mean, are there other single barrels that just hit, or is this where we're at right now? You said 2015 was the launch.
We launched in 2016.
2016. Okay.
Yeah.
So
We have other things laid down, and there'll be lots of really cool things coming out, especially at the distillery level. Some of them might be able to make it up here. So coming to the distillery is going to just give you a fabulous experience and lots of cool releases.
love it.
One release that we do have coming out in 2025 is going to be the wheat heavy bourbon. So at the same time as we laid these down, I started laying the wheated bourbon down. So it's the same mash bill as the rye, but instead of malted rye, it's malted wheat. We have held that back, and it has gotten to age to at least 6 years old. So it will be 6 when it comes out, at least 6. And
Is
that will be
that-
coming out in 2025.
Is that a business decision, or is that a distiller's decision based on where you had it as far as where you wanted to be? Going
That's a
from 4 to 6?
combination.
Okay.
That's a combination decision.
Sure. Just curious.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times people that are enjoying these products, they want this certain age or whatever. And it's like, it's also a business here, people. I mean, you got to realize that it's like, you can't just release everything at once and then, kind of cannibalize your own line.
Strangely, we've from a business standpoint, have decided to hold it back a little bit longer because we do have some other things that are coming out in
Yeah.
the meantime, and we're just like from a handling the marketing and getting the labels made and making sure the colas and everything are all straight and everything.
Sure.
Got all the bottles, got all the labels, we got
Yeah.
all the tops, you got the corks, you got just making sure we have all those logistics together. We're like,
do it right.
we're going to hold off on the wheat for a year.
Now, so with that, just a quick question: if it's coming out at 6 years, will that be like the new thing, or are you going to say like at least 4 years? Once
No,
that
it'll
hits?
be 6.
You're going to just stick
At
with
least
that.
6, yes,
That's
on
awesome.
that one.
Well, I want to say thank you, first of all, for as a consumer, a lot of these projects that you see kind of popping up, right? You guys have been at this. It's all very much, again, all the history we talked about, everything we talked about with locally sourced, if not on your own land. That price point is very much appreciated because there are a lot of smaller, newer distilleries that are doing all this stuff on their own. I'm not saying you can always keep it at that price, but I mean, you're at that average price now. When I saw it on ohlq.com, the rye bourbon, I'm like, all right. So I did a search for, you guys on, and all of a sudden these bottles come up and I'm seeing some like high price tags on it. I'm like, oh, wow, these guys are really coming out big. And then I see what they're actually selling for. I'm like, this is easy on the pocket too. So if you like this stuff, you're not just like hanging out like, oh, well, I gotta, so, whatever. It's all locally done. So $100 is your starting price point. You know what I mean? Like that's starting to become a little bit of a common trend. And it makes it difficult for people to really enjoy a product coming from a company like yours on the regular basis. They do it. They want to have a bottle on their bar, but they're like, well, I don't want to drink that tonight because it's $110 or it's $100 whatever. It's like, this is like, wow, I can just go down to the liquor store and get another bottle. This is great. I love that. So I thank you guys for that. I'm sure the listeners and other consumers will really thank you guys for that. I don't know if you've heard that people are surprised at the price.
No, usually I get it the other way around. It's like, man, that's so expensive.
Really?
Yeah.
At $49.
Well, I guess we're cheapskates in other places. I appreciate you all.
I mean,
This is awesome.
Fair enough.
they're probably comparing it to some of the big name $20 and $30 bottles.
Yeah, I think that's what they're doing.
That's the problem. But I mean,
Can't do it.
you can't. Yeah. I mean, but I also like the fact that you guys, it's your own juice. You didn't source from any. I mean, yeah, that stuff has to age for a certain amount of time. There's a cost associated with that aging.
Yes.
So we've talked about it numerous times on here where a lot of newer distilleries, they'll either source the whiskeys while their stuff ages, or that's when they start coming out with the neutral grain spirits, stuff that they can push out and sell right now to try and recoup some of that money now before what they really want to focus on comes out.
Yeah.
So
It's just a fact of business. You have to have cash flow.
Yeah.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
The
You
lighter
can't
spirits
exist without
usually will
it.
do that. Yeah. And so we see it more common where you'll put out a vodka, gin, or something like that and source some of the stuff while you're working on your own. And, sourcing, people think, oh, it's easier. No, there's more cost there too.
Mm-hmm.
More people have to get paid on that.
Yeah, there's more layers.
Yeah, more layers. Like I said, I know you have to get on the road here tonight. You're heading back down to Kentucky.
Yeah.
So we don't want to keep you too long. Normally we do like a rating of the whiskey, the cigar, and the pairing. I think we can kind of do it a little more informally. But any like kind of closing remarks you want to leave everyone with for part one here? Again, about the distillery, about the products, what people should know, just as a summary from both of you guys.
Well, I just so much appreciate you guys having us on and allowing us to tell our story and to share what we have going on. And I hope everyone enjoys it. My couple of days here in Ohio it's been really, really great, actually. Good. I mean, you talked about how difficult Ohio, I guess, is perceived to be to work with. And as a control state, that's kind of the mentality we had going, oh my God, it's a control state. We don't want to get blacklisted.
Right.
But these past couple of days have been really awesome and I've enjoyed it. And I think Ohio's awesome. Good.
We tend to agree. Chris, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I can just echo that sentiment and say that, I'm excited for Ohio. I think that people are really going to enjoy this rye heavy bourbon. And the more that people enjoy that, the way that Ohio laws are set up, then we can start bringing in the other stuff. Once we start setting a nice track record of, good sales and people are enjoying it, then we can bring more of that good stuff that you all like. just
Absolutely.
in different forms.
Absolutely. Nate,
Gotta
anything?
get people to buy it.
Yeah.
Gotta get people to buy it in order to be able to get the rest of the stuff in here.
Well, I know
And
if it ends up
that's-
on your shelves over at Carfagno's.
Oh, I'm gonna sell the shit out of this. I'm telling you right now, I'm gonna absolutely sell the shit out of this.
I figured you would.
If Carfagno's gets it, it's
I'm
good.
sure it will.
It's gonna
Yeah.
be one of those where it's like, hey guys, I know you guys may, because there's a few of us in the store that when certain products, especially new stuff, comes in, there's a few of us that are like, yep, I'm getting one of those for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it might, I don't know. These come in 6
Well,
packs. or
hold
12
off a
packs.
little bit and let other people
Six.
try it.
Six
Right?
packs.
6
Yeah.
packs.
All right. They're gonna be lucky if on Saturday there's 3 left. So
Maybe hold off to the next, like the second shipment.
no,
Good.
no, I'm buying. I'm buying.
Trying to
more.
help them out here. Right?
No,
You've already had some.
It's not like I get a discount on it. No, I'm
We
buying-
have enough. We can
All right,
send
all
some
right.
more
Keep
to
sending it,
Ohio.
keep
Yeah.
sending it.
We
Yeah.
can we make more.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you guys for coming up here. I know to Ohio, and then also spending the last night so far in Ohio, here in a garage in a cul-de-sac in Columbus, Ohio. It's so glamorous
Awesome. It's awesome.
on here. It's so funny when we set this stuff up. I'm kicking back emails and all that stuff, and it's like, hey, where should we park? I'm like, on the street. What questions did we get this all? Like, what questions are like a outline? No. And then that's it. Here we are. Welcome to the garage.
No, it's been
And,
great.
It's pretty
Yeah.
laid
Wait,
back,
yeah,
and
it's awesome.
we appreciate it. But I do thank you guys. Safe travels. Are you heading back tonight as well? Or are you still doing work in the state?
So I'll be staying here tonight and then spending the day in Cincinnati.
Yep.
Tomorrow.
Yeah. Spreading the knowledge there too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Ann says thank you. Ray, who again, Vietnam now, but he's going back to the UK, I guess, and he looked it up on the UK distribution, and they only have 3 CL sample bottles.
We have another shipment going over if they ever come pick it up.
Okay.
It's ready. It's packaged. It's ready to go.
So
Well,
keep
he's
an
gonna
eye
be there
on that
next month.
next month. So hopefully we'll get some out there. Yeah, perfect. All right, guys. For
Thank
those
you.
listening, thank you. We'll do a quick intermission, and because we're gonna be shuffling some things around, if you guys are listening live, just kind of bear with us. I'm gonna put it on the logo screen, and for those listening on the podcast apps, just make sure you click over to part 2 where we go beyond the BS, and hopefully you guys have enjoyed all of the knowledge, all the history, all of the products, and I hope you guys can enjoy the bottles like we were able to tonight very, very soon. So guys, cheers. Happy Whiskey Wednesday.
Cheers.
You gotta clink with the bell. Gotta clink with the bell. That's where you get the best.
I realize that. Okay, I gotta go down now.
Welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast, everyone. This is episode 270, part 2. Sorry for the delay there. For those that are listening live, we just got back on. We saw them out. Our guests, Joyce and Chris from Jeptha Creed. And what a great part 1. It went a little longer because we were fortunate enough to have them before they had hit the road. And it was kind of like one of those things where if they were remote, we would have just kind of been like, all right, good seeing you. And they would just kind of sign off. But the fact that we had them in the garage just made it so much better. And we feel very fortunate. That was actually the first, I think, time in all these episodes that we had someone live in the garage just for part 1. And then they took off.
That could be.
I think it is the first time.
It might be.
Great having them
when
on.
you got a 4-hour drive ahead of you.
Yeah.
No, I get. I mean,
Yeah,
I was. If you were listening, I kept saying, "All right, well, so we don't want to keep you. I know you got to hit the road." She's like, "Well, I have another bottle." I'm like,
Yes.
"Okay, I don't want to."
Which was your favorite?
My favorite, and again, we're talking about the Jeptha Creed. If you guys are listening to the audio in part 2, click over to part 1. Again, a lot of information, a lot of history in their family and the farming side of it. They're very unique in a good way. Daily drinker. If I could choose, I'd probably go red, white, and blue.
Okay.
But I 4 grain, I'm looking forward to that hitting the shelves because it was such a smooth finish.
Yeah.
And the rye bourbon was unique. I'm looking forward to sipping on, again, very, very generous. They left quite a bit of whiskey here. So,
Yes.
not looking to finish it tonight, but it's nice to have available
Yeah.
here.
Sean Anderson isn't in the garage, so we'll be all
Right, exactly. So, so it was absolutely fantastic. What was your favorite?
The rye bourbon,
I
the
knew you were
first
gonna
one.
say
That one was my favorite. I know we didn't do like our official rating, but that one was an 8.5 for me. Like that was a good bottle. And like I said, and sometimes some podcasts they might say it just to blow smoke up people's skirts, but no, if that comes to my store, I'm getting a bottle of it.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
Sean, what was your favorite?
Same rye bourbon. It just, I kept saying wow a lot after I drank it.
You did?
Like
Well-
Owen Wilson.
Well, then
wow.
what we should do is just like hold those two back, maybe, and then just
Sip on the 4 grain.
drink the 4 grain the rest of the night, kind of like when Sean Anderson was in here.
I'm good with that. I want to take one more sip, just like a small pour of the rye bourbon after doing the red, white, and blue,
Okay.
just to
Yeah,
see that corn back.
I would have liked to.
And
have
then we'll table
I think we can allow.
Just table it after that.
I
All
would
right, so
like to have cleansed the palate between each one, just because to me they kind of start. I don't know. I
blends together a little
yeah,
bit.
a little bit,
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so part 2, just because we're already kind of far into the evening here, but part 2, this came from Nate, and it's curb appeal versus interior.
Okay.
What's more important, and can looks be deceiving? The exterior can look nice, but the inside is a disaster sometimes, and vice versa. Another comment that came from looking at this topic is style over substance, which can be a different take on it. What are or should we focus on more? Why? And does it change based on situation or stage of life? So Nate, you came up with this. This came to you what when you were doing some yard work, I believe.
Yeah, last Thursday or last Wednesday, a week ago, after I got done mowing the grass.
Yeah.
It was just something that just popped in my head because you had texted me the night before at like 11:30 at night.
Well, and I had also put it on the podcast page.
I thought you did that after you texted me.
Could have been.
But yeah, you had texted me at like 11:30 on a Tuesday night for topic ideas, and I was like, all right, let me think, because I was already like in decompression mode. It was towards the end of the night.
Back to work.
And I'm sitting there, and Steve's texting me. I'm like, Steve been drinking tonight?
Yes.
I could tell.
Yeah. It's when we call it creative stage.
I can always tell by your text messages
Yeah.
if you've been drinking.
It's
But no, I was sitting
Fair.
on my back patio after I'd gotten done mowing the grass and just ate breakfast. And I was sitting there with a cup of coffee and a cigar. And that was, something that I thought about because, the street I live on is the only street in the entire neighborhood that is duplexes.
Hmm.
And it's just our street. Everything else is single family homes. and you can kind of tell based on types of people living in these houses by their yard.
Yeah.
Like you can look at their yard and you're like,
Say like why? How? Explain that.
I think it's a culture thing. There's a lot of people from different cultures on this street, and just again a microcosm what I'm seeing just in that street, like people whose grass gets really high and it keeps stalling the mower like 20 times just on the backyard.
Yeah.
It always seems to be a certain type of person or people from a certain area.
Okay.
And it's like people that
like a demographic.
So usually Somali.
Okay.
But I think it's maybe because in their culture, like in Somalia, they probably don't have a lot of green grass growing in their house, growing around their houses, and it may not be a thing that they really care
That's
about.
important.
What about
Whereas
could be renters?
Well, but they're the ones responsible for.
I understand that, but that's not their yard, really. So they don't really care.
That could be.
Okay.
I mean, but then again,
But that's what you've noticed around
I
you.
see the poor teenager, 2 houses down. Like I can sit out in the backyard and I can tell when he's mowing the grass because it's usually like once a month he's mowing the grass. And that thing, I mean, every 30 feet that mower's about ready to die out because the grass is just too tall.
Okay.
And, I don't know if he understands, like, hey, if you cut it more frequently, you don't have to worry about that.
Sure.
But also at the same time, because, the way their culture may be, they may not give a shit about, what the yard looks like. Again,
especially if it's not their place.
It's not their yard.
I'm going to throw a wrench in your thing.
Go right ahead.
Throw that monkey wrench.
No, because the way my wife and I have been out of town and
I feel the same way.
And
man.
had some I had some medical issues. I couldn't mow. I wasn't allowed to do anything heavy. So I went for like 2 weeks without mowing. And for some reason, this time of year, our grass is on steroids. Kevin, the guy down the street, fertilized our yard. I'm not bullshit.
I'm the same way.
It was just fucking
all
calm.
the rain we got.
It was
last couple
fucking
weeks?
insane.
This
dude.
time of the year, it always does.
It took me, I had to like triple cut it and then rake it and bag it. And like now it's already starting to take off again. But I know what you're saying, but I was just gonna I was that guy like
triggered.
last
Now.
week.
Like,
Yeah.
triggered.
No, I'm not triggered. I'm just saying that's funny.
But like before,
I care about my yard too.
Before my landlords went on vacation, like they were mowing the grass like every 4 days.
Yeah.
And
you have to.
for me, Wednesday's my only day off.
Sure.
And so, the last 2 Wednesdays I've gotten up in the morning and mowed both properties,
cool.
my duplex and then also the one down the street.
Yeah, but even with that schedule, you got to make sure the weather cooperates too.
Oh yeah.
That's the tough
well,
part
because originally what I was going to do last week was I was going to mow the one down the street on Wednesday and then mow mine on Saturday morning because my grass doesn't grow as fast as the backyard down the street.
Okay.
It gets really tall a lot faster. But then I looked and I was like, oh, it might rain Saturday morning. I'm going to go ahead and knock both of them out. But I also don't want to try and do it, before I go to work or, at 7 o'clock at night when I get home.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that, and then just even like the neighbors you want to have. Yeah, exactly. I noticed that. I forget what day it was. It was like 7:30 and people, like someone was mowing. I could hear it. I'm like, I know it's not too early, but like, come on. All right. So
I
the
try not to
topic
do it before 8 o'clock.
The topic here, though, is curb appeal versus interior. So where are you going with that? Because I can see that with the outside.
It inspired me to think about how, some people portray themselves or their life. Like on the outside, everything looks clean cut. Everything looks well kept, well maintained. But on the inside, they might be an absolute wreck.
Okay.
So that's what I was talking about, like with the curb appeal for like from the street view, from the Google streetcar view, like the house looks great, well manicured lawn. You look inside the house and it's like just shit everywhere.
Well, you're saying you try to maintain your curb appeal.
Well, I mean, my landlord's out of town, so that's why I'm doing it,
Sure.
and they also pay me to do it. So,
So for like, let's stick with the literal aspect here. Your neighbors, what do you envision the inside of their house if their lawn is overgrown?
Well, I think a lot of us, if we see a house where the outside is unkept, we assume that's what the inside of the house is going to be as well. And
Sure.
I think we do that the same way with people. Like if they look disheveled on the outside, if they're always walking with their head down, everything looks like in shambles and raggedy. We judge and think that's what's going on internally with them as well.
Yeah. Okay.
I think the same can be said with just Facebook and Instagram when it comes to people looking all dressed up in the perfect picture and everyone looks so happy, and then
like the influencers.
Yeah, and then they step away from the camera, or they're and deep inside they're fucking miserable, or they're going through some stuff, and I think that's the part that kind of like, for a while when I was fighting some depression, it was tough for me to look at that and not see like maybe they're struggling too. I just look at everyone having the what do they call it, the highlight reel, and that's can be very misleading. And it's, and I even know, people that I follow that show that, but I know that they're struggling, and I know if it's going to make you happy or make you at least give you some kind of an outlet, I guess that's cool. But, it's also, I worry about some people when it comes to that stuff. So.
Yeah, so the social media thing, we've talked about it before. You can use it as a tool for that. You're absolutely right. I mean, like, going with the literal start of this of like, the yard being overgrown or gardening or what have you. It's like some people just don't care about it. Some people, their schedule. I would say that, for me, I let mine go a little far just more recently, was because couldn't cut it before I went on vacation for a week. Then I got back, and then Sunday, Monday, it was raining. I got like a little bit of it mowed before it rained. And then I didn't have an opportunity to cut it until the following Sunday. By the time I got to my backyard, it was like, Jesus.
Yeah, it's insane, man.
I couldn't. It's just like, when do you do it? I mean, like, that's the thing, is that when it's on you and you don't pay someone to do it, you have to go out and do it yourself. And, you do work open and close, or for example, like my schedule, Sunday, Monday off, and hopefully the weather cooperates. Right. And then Tuesday I work open at 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. So that's out. On a Wednesday it's or 10 at 10, open to 4, then running around, then podcast, can't do it then. Right now, Thursdays I have softball. Friday night, hopefully I can knock some of it out. Oh, no, it's raining again. Now Saturday, it's open to close again. We're back to Sunday again. And it's like a week in this time of the year. It's just, it wreaks havoc on that. It
and grass is going to grow at its maximum rate until about July or August.
Mm-hmm.
So Ray then asked this question, and I was getting to that on my part, but I'll let you answer that. Sean, can I ask Sean why he'd follow someone on social media when he knows they're putting out a false front?
Well, just because I know someone who's struggling with personal issues doesn't mean they still can't have, a sense of happiness. If that makes them happy and they want to do that, maybe it's a way for them to escape from what they're dealing with, or just kind of to get away from it for a little bit. I see what you're saying. It's not somebody like that these people that I follow are like, they're fake in person. It's just, I think sometimes, I think in one way or another, maybe all of us have been that way down the road and we don't even realize it. Maybe not as extreme as other, but maybe there's a picture that I may have posted where I'm looking all happy and shit, and deep down I'm depressed. But I actually don't go on social media as much anymore. Or I barely post anything. I just don't really have a need to, or feel like, lately I don't feel like I have to post something and look around and see how many likes and comments I'll get anymore.
I usually like the ones I see, man.
I appreciate that, Steve. Yeah, you.
Or I give a heart or a care.
Thank you. And you know what? Once I see that you've like responded, then I don't give a shit about anybody else. So I appreciate that.
No, I understand that. Usually would help you not have to go back and check it out.
Yeah. I just know that you're going to do it. So anyway, yeah. So it's, if they're struggling, doesn't mean that's like they can still have moments in their lives where maybe there was a good thing in their life at that point and they want to share it. But
I compare it to this, this phenomenon. It's in this country. I don't know elsewhere. When you you get like a Christmas card from a couple or a family where you may think they don't really get along, or one of them's miserable. Your friend in the relationship has like really been like struggling, and then you get the Christmas card from them, and it's like this super like they paid for a photographer. They like have this whole like
Matching
image
outfits.
out there, yeah, like all that stuff, and everyone's smiling, and you're like, that's nice. I hope it works out. You know what I mean?
3 months later,
I
the
think I
dad's
can-
living in an apartment.
Well, yeah, I think that is part of it. And I think, people do want to put their best self out there, because it's the other thing is like what Nate was talking about. And, for example, using the example of like the curb appeal versus the interior, you wear your heart on your sleeve. That can be good sometimes. But I mean, like in a work atmosphere, if you're having shit going on, and whether it's with yourself or with your home life or your health or whatever, and then you go into a job and you treat your coworkers or your customers, and it's like, hey, how's it going? Not great. What can I do for you? Or, hey, can you get this done for me? Yeah, sure. Like, that's not really beneficial. Like, sometimes you do need to put a little curb appeal out there. You really should, in my opinion, because you have to be professional. Or, if someone wants to ask, hey, how you doing? That whole thing of they're basically saying hi, and hey, how you doing? And yeah, okay, the curb appeal is like, yeah, great, how are you? But really, what you typically don't want is the other person being like, well, not good. Wife left me. House is being foreclosed on.
Sounds like a country song.
And you do all that, and you're just like, I was just saying hi. It's I don't know. Sometimes you have to put your best face out there, your best self out there. But I mean, you also want to be a little bit vulnerable. The social media side of it. Why do you follow them? Typically because you're a friend. You can even not pay attention to the social media side of it when someone keeps posting like these positive things. And I have seen the overcorrection side of it when people are going through shit. They're going through shit personally, and everything's motivational on their feed. Or,
that's it.
Or that like the couple is doing poorly. Someone just cheated on someone, or someone's, like they got in a huge fight, and you're just listening to it. And the next thing you like go across like their Instagram story or their next post, and it's like, this person's my world. And like, relationships are the best. And you're like, are you doing it for you, for the other person? Are you doing it for everyone else out there?
Doing it for the gram.
I mean, and
I think
just
Ray,
don't do anything. Don't put it out there.
I think that's what I'm kind of getting to, Ray, too, is that it's that shit. If somebody is that I know that's struggling, and if they're having a rough time in life, and and if they're just putting some out there to try to give themselves a reason to smile or to make them happy, I'm not like, you said something about me fueling their fire. So I'm not out there going, yeah, go. I'm like, all right, cool. They're doing that. It's just, it's to me, it's like if they can find a little bit of happiness with what they're struggling with, depending on obviously what it is. I'm not going to go into details as to who it is and what they're dealing with, but if there's a moment that they can maybe post something that does make them happy for that small amount of time, then great, but if it's like what Steve said, if it's the stuff that's like they're not practicing what they're preaching, or they're acting like they're being some motivational, I kind of call bullshit on that. But this, in this situation, there's certain people I know, it's it doesn't really come to that.
I think sometimes some of us will put on, as Ray said, a false front, just because like there are some people out there that are going through something that is so deep, so serious, so dark, that if they actually let out what they were going through, like it'd scare the shit out of people. They walked up to, at a grocery store or something.
Yeah.
Or if they were in a retail environment, an associate came up and asked them, hey, how you doing? And that person answered honestly with everything that's going on wrong in their life.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'm going to go out the back door now. You have fun. Like,
well,
good
Ray
luck to you. I mean,
last week it was, the whole thing about, he thought that Americans or younger people throw around the I love you a lot. They overuse that. I think that might be part of it, because he says, I think the exact opposite. If you ask someone how they are doing, you should be prepared to listen no matter what. Again, maybe that's a Midwest American thing where like that's how you say hi. Hey, how you doing?
fine, good,
fine, or
so
hey.
Well, my wife being the counselor and most people that know her, she does, Ray, get a lot of those, how are you? And some people will unload on her because of she's a therapist, a counselor. So people just, and I think
asked someone in a session, I think that she should be prepared.
No. This is like in public out.
How are you doing?
This is in the grocery store.
I didn't want to know your whole life story. That's what I'm paying you for.
No. I'm talking about being at a grocery store. Like, hey, how you been? And they unload. And I think Teresa just also had, and it's the same with me. People have like this, I must give off a vibe like, tell me your deepest, darkest secrets and I'll listen. And I would if they do that. I mean, I'm not going to like run to the hills. I mean, if somebody's struggling, of course I want to try to, just listen if they want me to listen, or offer advice if they want me to offer advice. I'm not going to turn somebody away like that.
No, absolutely. I mean, I agree with that. What else is Ray saying?
He's busy. He's a busy man.
The very fact you're following is already fuel to the fire. Those kinds of people need followers to justify their existence.
Oh, okay, I'm just going to stop.
No, we are in an age with that, the curb appeal. I mean, it is. It's what I was saying. You put on your best face. You know what I mean? You don't need to necessarily, if you're depressed, you don't necessarily need to dress in your PJs and go out to the grocery store or go, like you still take a shower, still do those things. You know what I mean? Again, everyone wants to talk about mental health these days. That's the set. I mean, good and
I think
good and bad thing. It's a good and bad thing that it's there's an awareness there, but it's like as soon as you start like really saying, well, if you're that severe, yeah, maybe you should go talk to a counselor. Maybe you should go do something.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like if it's affecting the other aspects of your life, that should be a clear indication of that. But just having rough times or rough things going on in your life. We had that last week during the conversation where I was like, guys, it's not a fucking like dick measuring contest where it's like who has it worse. Which is what was happening.
There was some shouting going on.
And I'm like, Jesus Christ, like you're both having a rough time or you've had tough times. It's like, yeah, people go through it. It's how you handle it. Curb appeal has become everything, he says. Ray says, whether it's real or perception. That's not a new thing.
No.
That's not a new thing.
I think it's become a newer thing with social media. But you mentioned the buzzwords mental health. I think a lot of people.
Well, I think it's a real thing. It's becoming a buzzword.
Well, I think people want to say the words mental health, but they're actually afraid to sit down and legitimately talk about it.
Some people are. I've noticed a while back when I was looking for a new counselor, I had to go through like 4 or 5 just to get somebody to like actually see me because they were so busy. They're like booked months out at a time. So I think people were taking
good and bad sign, right?
Yeah, I mean, people are taking advantage of it, and that's good. And I'm glad. And I do know when I would, excuse me, go on their websites, they even put like hiring. We are hiring. So.
Yeah,
and I'm glad that that's happening. I mean, people
qualified though.
Well, yeah, of course. But I'm glad that people are doing that because they need it. I mean, the worst thing you can do is hold something in. I was just talking to my wife about this the other day. It's like holding shit in is the worst thing you could do. Is getting that shit off your chest, even if you just got to vent to someone about what you're struggling with or how you feel. Within just a 3-minute conversation, can go a long way.
Well, and sometimes it's just the act of actually saying it out loud to someone.
You're airing it out.
Like that already takes weight off of your shoulders.
Yep.
Because you've at least said it out loud to someone else, and it's not like, yeah, this is what I'm going through. Whether you're someone who can help me with it or not, I just want to be able to say, this is what I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you for listening while I rant. Like, this is what I'm dealing with. Don't know if you have a solution or there's any way you can help me through it, but it's nice that you actually care enough to sit there and listen to me rant on. Like, yeah, this is the shit I'm going through. This is what's eating at me. Sometimes that can be like the first step in getting over that issue.
You know what I do when someone vents to me? When they're done, I go, now let me ask you this. Do you feel just a little bit better getting that off your chest? 99.9% of the time. Yep, I actually do feel better. Yeah. That's just a little fucking spark. I mean, imagine really diving into that and opening up. It's
I remember there were times a couple of years ago where Steve was going through some stuff, and we were working together, a lot of Saturday nights at the Tinderbox, and at the end of the night, everyone's left. Steve and I are closing down, and Steve would just let out like what's on his mind and what he's thinking, what's going on. I knew what he was dealing with, but he would actually just unload and say like, yeah, this is what I'm thinking. This is, what's been eating at me the last several days. This is, what my thought process has been. And, there were times where I would actually sit there and go, well, do you actually want me to respond to you, or like, did you just want to say it? Because either way, I'm there. I just want to know how you want me to react, because I get that you just want to get this off your chest. Is that all it is? Or do you actually want to hear feedback or opinion from me? And most of the time it was just, I just want to unload. I just want to unload, get it out there and, say.
Or I'd ask you what you think.
Yeah. And that's why I talked about it after that stuff was going on, where because you and I, live our lives as differently as we do, there were times where with what you were going through, I was having difficulty connecting because some of the differences between us and the way we live our lives in that particular area.
Sure.
And so I didn't really know if I had anything I could say that was going to make it better. It was more just, me being there and, being the opportunity for you to actually get it out there. Because sometimes when you actually, talk with someone and say it out loud and get it off your chest, it makes the other gears in your head start turning, and it makes you actually think about solutions on your own rather than needing solutions from other people. Like it causes you to come up with ideas and other thoughts.
Sometimes you just want to get it out there. Sometimes you just want to express the feelings you're going through. What do you guys think? Curb appeal versus interior. What's more important?
Interior.
Okay.
That's the nuts and bolts of everything in life. I mean, on the outside, it's the outside's, I'm taking the word. It's kind of shallow. It's more of a, the outward appearance facade. Yeah. Like when I made the mistake when I was younger, before I was married and knew Teresa, I would date some very, very beautiful, hot girls.
Teresa's very beautiful and hot, by the way.
She is.
Let me just throw that in there for a disclaimer, because I feel like
just stop.
I'm your coach.
I'm trying to get to she is. But
before Teresa, you should have seen her. That's how it could have been.
That was a male whore. I mean, no, I would date these girls.
That 4 grand.
I would date these girls that were
Did you go back to the Rye?
I did not. Good call.
That were very beautiful, and I was attracted. But then I got to see who they really were, and a lot of times, beauty's only skin deep, and it was like you get to see the real person after a while, and you're like, okay, I didn't sign up for this shit. And I think that goes along with just who you are as a person. And you can do the same thing with a house. Like our house on the outside looks nice. We're doing a lot of yard work and, power washing our deck and blah, blah, blah. But some days you come in our house and with 5 animals, it's a shit show in there. Yeah. So when people show up unannounced, I'm like, I just got to warn you, it's just a mess.
Let me walk you out back.
Yeah. Let me show you the patio.
Come around back. We'll hang out on the patio. So, meanwhile, the wife and kid are in the house, just like shoving everything in the closets.
But I mean, I guess, I think that's the thing, but you're always going to have a messy house, but I just think it's deep down is what I think what's most important. And that's where you get the true quality of a person, or I don't know, life. I don't know however you want to say it. Because, and it goes, you could have a perfect house, perfect exterior, perfect interior, but how is a family dynamic? How are they looking? Because I've seen both. I've been to houses where it's beautiful in and out, but how's the family dynamic?
So I think that really, like with the house example, or say, let's compare this to, let's try to get down that road a little bit. House example, first of all, the curb appeal is one thing. That's from the outside, not having people inside of your home, and it's just people driving by, or the outside looking in. People you never interact with, literally people, that see you walking down the street, have an interaction with you. They see you at a coffee shop, they see you somewhere, and it's like that's an opinion that it only goes so far. Now they have a conversation with you. Now they're starting to welcome them into your home.
Yeah.
So they walk in, you seem to have your shit together and all that stuff. But it's like to Nate's point, it's like, do they see your closets? Do they see, the baseboards? Do they see all this stuff? Like the real nitty gritty stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that you can only go so far with like the home example, because again, some things are important. Ray was saying, he's like, Ray should live in a condo. I mean, like, you look at it, he's like, I hate doing yard work and gardening, but I'm very meticulous on the inside of my house. You find solutions for that. I guess when I ask, what's more important, the curb appeal versus the interior, the goal should be obviously both, Yeah. You want to, I don't think there's plenty of people out there too that are very well spoken. They are, saw a lot of that in the last few years where it's like, someone that is giving their opinions on, how not to go down the rabbit hole, but about personal health and taking care of yourself and others. And you look at them and you're like, I'm not going to listen to you because you clearly have not been taking care of yourself in any way physically or in a health manner. You know what I mean? So it's like you can have that, you can have the knowledge, but I think there is a little bit of both sides of it, is that if you are looking at mental health, physical health, and all that, I think the goal is that sometimes they do feed into each other. You never want, I don't think, one to take over too far over the other. Only we talked about that, Sean, where you were like really like into your fitness journey at one point, and then you realize that it's like some other things start slipping from that because that's the most important thing to you. And it's like, well,
it's balance.
It's balance.
The boats. We tore the boats.
Well, that was a good episode. We couldn't do that again if we tried. There's no way. What were we drinking that night? We need to get another bottle of that. That was a good part too.
That was.
But I think that these feed into each other is the big thing about it, is that, what's more important, you have to have the substance there. You know what I mean? You have to look at the interior of yourself, the health. I just went to my doctor last week, got my blood test back, and there's a couple things this time around, being in my early 40s, like he's like, let's take a look at it. Instead of 6 months, come back and see me in 3 months, do a couple things, and there's a couple like blood levels that he's like, these are starting to creep a certain way. He's like, let's do some things about it. And so that's my goal now, is to do that. And it's not just about the outside look, but there were certain things that I could see physically that were starting to happen to me, where I'm like, well, that I don't feel as good. I don't look the way I want to look. I don't want to. And it was lifestyle, diet, the drinking, the smoking, the like all those like flags. Right. And I also like realized my sleep wasn't as good as it used to be. And so I need to really kind of get back to that part of it. But I think that kind of speaks to this topic as well, is that I'm also having someone check under the hood, in a sense, where it's like, you look after the interior to make sure that physically you're okay. And then mentally that should follow as well, because that goes into a big part of this, is that if you're not taking care of yourself from a nutrition, diet, physical exercise, all of that stuff, and all you're doing is focusing on, I guess, the interior from a career or a financial or a how you feel type thing on the surface level, that's not real. That's not going to go very far either, because then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, you don't care how you look, how your clothes fit, how you feel when you wake up. You don't think about all that stuff. All you're worried about are these certain things. And I guess that would be, maybe I'm trying to classify this as interior and curb appeal using that metaphor. I think even those things are curb appeal. Yep. It's truly, you have to really dive down and look at yourself and continue to assess how you're feeling and what you're going through.
I'll say this. I've said this a long time ago, and I'll say it again just very quickly. With that, what you're discussing is, I remember 8 years ago, I was super into fitness and health, and I was, and me being the idiot that I was back then, was doing it for the wrong reasons. I wanted people to recognize that I lost weight because I worked so hard to do it.
Yeah,
and I got down 40 pounds. But I remember once I got to that goal, and people would notice that I had lost weight and say nice things, it was like, all right, now what? There was no like self-fulfilling feeling of like, yeah, they said that, but now what? It was just surface level shit.
And that's all you talk about then.
Yeah. And so now when I just, when I give myself a little more grace, and Yeah, I've lost a little bit of weight over the past month or two. I'm just trying to eat a little bit better and just doing some random exercising, but I'm not trying to kill myself like I did before. And I'm not going to do something I don't want to do, knowing that I will never stick with it. I'm happy with who I am. And when I get, I'm more interested in to see how people know me as a person and when I'm inside the interior than I am about what I look like on the outside anymore. I'm very, to a point, everyone wants to kind of look nice at some point and do, try to be well kept, but it's an impression. It's about the impression that you want to leave with someone when you're done talking to them, or how you've interacted, how you spent your life with them, or what you've done with them. And I think that's where I really drive home. And that goes for both you guys. You guys are one of my really close friends because of who you guys are on the inside. Now you're handsome as fuck on the outside.
I was
going to
say let's not breeze over the outside.
You guys are
man.
very handsome. I love the color in your face from the being out by the test driving today. It's very nice. But who you guys are as people
is all convertibles.
What brings me here every week to hang with you guys.
Yeah.
That's what it's about.
Well, and I think, to the analogy, like if the inside is, well organized, good bones, as we talk about with house, like the house on the inside meets what you want. It has the features that you want, the number of bedrooms, number of bathrooms, the kitchen, but you don't like the carpet or you don't like the paint. It's like, guess what? It's, for, what the house is and meeting all the other check marks, paint and carpet's pretty fucking cheap.
It's easy
compared to, having to fix the bones of the entire inside of the house. So, if you've got a house where from the curb it looks like absolute shit, but the inside looks absolutely amazing, has everything you want, some people would look at that and go, yeah, I'm going to pass on this. It's like, really? Plant some shrubs, plant some grass seed and some hay. Like I think some of the external stuff is easier to fix and update.
Why don't people do it then? From a house standpoint, or even from you?
Maybe they're more worried about the inside. Maybe they want to work from the inside out.
Do you think the blinders, so like when you pull up to your own house, right? The inside's great, right? You did a lot of work on change the carpet, you clean it all the time, you vacuum, you wipe stuff down, and you pull into your house. Do you have blinders on looking at your yard, looking at the outside? I mean, when you say it's like people, it's not as important. At some point, do you think that it will catch up? It'll bleed in.
I think it's yeah. I mean, it'll obviously happen a lot quicker when someone else mentions the outside, because you may sit there and go, oh, shit, you know what? I didn't think about that. And I think that's just because when we hit, when our external looks a certain way and we've maintained that for a period of time, it just becomes who we are and we don't think about it as much. We almost need someone or something to happen in order for us to realize, maybe I can change that.
There's a house across the street from ours. The he's moved out and he was going to sell it, and then the sale fell through, and he's trying to sell it again. But it is it's an eyesore. It's the trim on the house the paint's off. The board of the trim is completely rotted. There's weeds growing everywhere. And I remember my neighbor, I was talking to him, who lived across the street from it. And he's like, dude, I hope you do something with that house. Cause he's worried about his value of his house. He's like, what if I want to sell it? They're going to go look across the street and see that house. And so there is that part of it where it can become like, holy shit. And and the house next door to that one was a piece of shit too, but someone's in there flipping it. And I told the guys that they're flipping, you should buy this house and flip that. And he's like, I don't even know if I want to flip that. It was that bad.
Well, I mean,
I'll make my money back. Because they're asking market value.
But again, like if the paint on the outside mismatches, or there's flashing that's hanging down, like that stuff that's fairly, in grand scheme of things, that stuff that's fairly inexpensive and easy to fix. If the frame of the house isn't rotting, then you can easily replace the other stuff that's exterior that is rotting. You can cut that away and replace it with something that's newer and nicer. Those are simple changes. If the frame of the house internally is rotting, that's a much harder thing to repair, because you got to pull down some walls and do some damage in order to actually make progress.
You let it go too far, the bones are going to rot. I think that
Which I
happens
wouldn't be
a lot.
surprised if a house didn't have
Gets
structural
leveled.
problems. Yeah. I told the guy, she's burning.
Well, I don't know if you guys have seen
So beauty is only skin deep. You know, people are all about, you know, the personality, and it's about the people. It's not about, you know, how you look. But I think right now we're seeing the opposite, at least I think it's international really, but I think this country, surface level is the first thing.
Oh, for sure.
Again,
Absolutely.
in a different light.
Yes.
It's not about how skinny you can be or how, you know, attractive you are. It's everything else. But what I think people don't talk about enough is that no, that's still curb appeal. You know, if whatever the trying to, I haven't drank enough for this one.
choose your words wisely.
No one's listening anyways.
Get him a movie.
I love that movie, right? Major League. You can't say that on the radio. That's all right. No one's listening anyways.
That's right. I forgot. That's great.
No, I think that it's dilute. If you're just looking for shelter, if you're just looking for the moment of that, it's yes, the inside is the most important. How you feel. Do you feel secure? Do you in yourself, in your home? But you do still need to maintain it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like this the overcorrection of things. It's like it doesn't matter how it looks on the outside. It's what's inside that matters. It's like, yeah, until you fucking die, because the outside fell on you.
Yeah.
Your health issues killed you because you're like, no, beauty's on the inside. It's like health is also on the outside. And that is also part of beauty. I mean, you can say that that's not everything, and I agree with that completely. But to overcorrect that and say it's like, I don't care what the outside looks like because the inside's amazing. You're not going to sell that house.
Yeah.
No.
You're not going to sell the house. So it's the same. I guess I look at it as what are your short-term, long-term goals, right?
Mhm.
You know, we don't tell people enough growing up. I think some like religions do stuff like that, but the finite aspect of life is that people telling you that someday you are going to die. It's how you handle that statement. You know, it's the same thing. Someday you're going to want to sell that house. Do I just live in this, you know, as I want, not take care of it? Well, if you're going to try to sell the house, you're going to be stuck with it. And therefore, there's a good chance, and bear with me here, is that if you don't take care of yourself, all the outside stuff will start working its way inward, and your confidence and everything else, it is a shell. It's a facade. It's everything else, because you still look in the mirror and you can fool yourself enough that, no, I'm still beautiful. I'm still handsome. I'm still healthy. It's like, you're not, you know, like the bones are starting to rot. You know, I'm not trying to scare everyone. Like my blood tests weren't like, you know, alarming in a sense, but it was like one of those things where I'm like, no, like I try to maintain that because I want to make sure that I someday I am going to die. I don't want to die soon if possible. So that's where I'm going to keep maintaining both the interior and the curb appeal the best I can.
Mhm.
It also makes people feel better if people do compliment you. That was very short. I mean, you have to have both. That's what I was saying. I think you have to have that both complimenting, that not only is it just your curb appeal when you're all into fitness and people are commenting, man, you look great, you lost weight, all this stuff. It's like, cool. That could be a bridge to, and let me tell you what I've been up to lately. My family's great. Like all this stuff,
That's
like
good.
everything goes with it.
Yep.
It's not all in on just the beauty of the house, because to your point, Nate, you could have the curb appeal looking great, yards absolutely great. You know what I mean? The inside's really great. And then the inspector comes in, the blood tests happen. You got termites. There's raccoons living up in your roof. You know, you got water behind all your basement walls.
I don't know if you've seen,
you know what I mean? And your roof.
Lately,
You need a new roof. And it's
lately
like,
there's been
how much is that going to cost me?
Lately there's been a thread of videos going around. I can't remember where it is, but there was this development of newly constructed homes that from the outside, like they look great, but then there is caution tape around houses because these houses are literally falling over.
From brand new builds.
Brand new
They'll
builds.
start cutting corners when they're building it.
Yeah, exactly. And or I mean,
Obviously.
like some of them people just moved in, or some of them people haven't even moved in yet. And there's fencing around, chain link fencing around these houses, and you can see the houses,
Kinda
are
tilting a little
they're
bit.
leaning, or one. You see the
Fine,
video,
fine.
the whole
Don't
house,
push it. Don't lean on that
the
side of
whole
the
house just falls backwards down the slope, just completely
Jesus.
collapses.
We had some of that in this neighborhood where they had to brace it all back up.
Yeah, on my
Yeah.
street.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I guess my point is that it's not just the outside, right? It's not just the exterior. It's not just the curb appeal. It has to, because on the other side of it, yeah, it looks great on the outside. People walking by or driving by, or you list your house for sale, whatever it is. To your point, I really compare this, Sean, to what you were saying, is that when you were like dating and it was like man, she's beautiful. Like she seems like she looks great, like she looks healthy and all that stuff. And you actually have a conversation and you find out about what their life's about. And you're like,
You're a shitty
oh
person.
God,
Yeah.
this is not for me.
Yeah.
It's like a great outside of the house. And you go inside and you're like, stains everywhere. Dishes are piled up.
So that reminds me, when I was younger, I was
You dated girls with dishes piled up in the sink in their
I
brain.
feel like Ross and friends went to that girl's house. It was all trashed inside.
You don't want to sit anywhere.
it's like
I
living with
moved some of those houses and it was real bad.
Oh,
It's
couldn't
like a
imagine,
hoarder.
dude. Yeah.
Put that mattress when you're carrying that. You ever done that? You guys never done that. You didn't move furniture. Where you pick up the mattress and you put it up against and you're carrying it like this, and it's right up against your face.
And there's stains everywhere.
It's wet.
Oh,
Yeah, you remember those moves.
Oh,
Yeah,
no, I remember.
Check for bed bugs.
I remember one time I
wasn't worried about it at the time. More just the urine or whatever it was that was on my face.
Oh, well, let's hope that's what it was. Of all bodily fluids, let's hope that's what it was.
Yeah.
You never knew.
No,
You never knew.
But I
Part of
remember
the charm of moving furniture.
I remember when I was younger, I was dating a girl, and very attractive, and her and I were talking on the phone, and all of a sudden she was yelling at her mother, and I could hear her on the phone, and she was saying some rather nasty stuff towards her mother. And I at one point actually said to her, I was like, look, if you yell at your mother and say something like that again, like, I'm hanging up and you and I are done.
How'd that work out?
We were done after that phone call.
There you have it.
Yeah.
Because
Those aren't good bones.
that to Sean's point, that was an insight to who they were internally as a
Yep.
person.
Yep.
And her and I broke up, and then years later, saw who they were seeing or the kind of life that they had at that time, and I'm like, oh, I dodged a bullet there.
Yep.
Typically how it looks.
Mm-hmm. I've dodged several bullets. I'm like Neo in the Matrix.
Not anymore.
I know. Well, yeah.
I've
stuck with one for the for the last.
just trying to help you guys out, man. The way you guys are saying things.
I'm very pretty. Want to date me? Needs it.
Get away. Scram.
Uh,
I love that scram.
No,
word. No one
honey.
uses it enough. Scram.
no, honey, that was not the girl
She-
I was dating before you.
Did she? Oh, she didn't comment on the feed.
No.
Damn it.
She was asking if it was my ex that I dated right before Jess. Nope, someone else further back.
So many women. Just kidding.
I was on an average for like one a year.
I'm just trying to give you shit.
I know.
Also trying to help, and then I just gave up on that. So what should we focus on more, or both, or how do you focus on it? What is like this whole topic, Nate? Curb appeal versus interior. You wanted to like kind of apply it more to the person. I mean, what are we focusing on here? What do we get out of this conversation?
I think the primary focus has to be internal.
Okay. In what way?
How you feel as a person, your whether it be your confidence, your calm, like how you deal with stuff, like who you are, your personality, your mental state. I think that is the most important, because I think if you have that locked down, it's easier than to make updates to the outside.
How do we get there? How do we work on that stuff?
While I think, like,
Sean, feel free.
while
Anyone
that's
out there, feel free.
Well, like I said, while I think that is the most important part, I think it's also the hardest part, because that's the stuff where you might have to break down some walls in order to fix some problems. You may have to rip some stuff up, and it's gonna hurt. It's gonna look messy. It's gonna look sloppy at times. But once you shore everything up internally, and you have a strong foundation, now you can start working on the outside stuff because you've got a base to build off of.
So how do you keep the interior healthy then? Like what do you work on? Well, again, what can we as listeners get from that? Like, how do we get there? I get you're saying, like, attack that first because it's very difficult. But what's the process?
Well, I mean, whatever it takes to get you there is what you is also the work you have to do to maintain to keep that. Like, you can't just
dial down a little bit though.
Well, like, okay, if we were talking about physical fitness and weight loss and stuff, if you wanted to lose weight,
we're talking about interior. Is that what you're talking about?
Well,
I'm not trying to be difficult.
No,
I'm
no.
trying to like walk through this with you here.
You're talking about literal interior of a house. Is that what you're talking about?
No, with the person. Like, you said it could get messy and all that stuff. I mean, like, you want to do that. I mean, do you think physical fitness would help that? Or are you saying, like, I mean, with the interior stuff of you?
So I think the interior stuff, personally, there's got to be a lot of conversations
With who?
with you and those close to you.
Okay.
In order, because if first step is recognizing that there is an issue.
And how do we do that, do you guys think?
You have to admit that there's an issue. And I think sometimes that's the hardest part, is because we don't want to admit that there's something wrong with us.
How do you guys think we should turn that corner?
Letting it out.
Do you have any personal examples? Anything that you guys have?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, for me personally, and I've shared this before, there's been times where, in the relationship with me and Teresa, where, I struggle with some things, just mentally, and depression, and even worse. But when I was going through those times where it was really difficult, I would recluse. I would tune them all out.
Shut it all down.
I would shut it down. I would be done with work. I would go downstairs and watch TV till it was time for bed. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want to deal with anybody.
What'd you watch? I know it sounds simple, but were you watching
know,
funny stuff? Were you watching like depressing stuff?
No, I don't remember. It's just shit to escape. It didn't matter if it's funny or sad or scary or whatever. It just for me to be able to escape. And it took my wife to kind of call me out, and not kind of call me out on, say, you could
Literally call you out.
Yeah. Like, listen, you're fucking keeping me and Molly in the dark with who you are and what you're doing. And we barely get a word from you. And, there's times where it got to a point where Teresa's like, things need to change, or it's not going to be.
Things are going to change.
Yeah. Things are either going to change or it will change.
Either you change or I'm going to change.
Yeah. And it once, and I hate that I had to go through all that for her to kind of push me out of that funk, because once she did, it gave me an avenue to open up and let it out. And once I did, then that took me to another level of, talking to a counselor and going through some things. And, I look back now, and I feel horrible that I put Molly and Teresa through that. But I also look back and show or see how I've grown. And now I can catch myself if I go down that path. Instead of going into the recluse mode or, shutting them out, I'll go to Teresa and say, hey, I'm struggling right now. This is what's going on.
Well, and you're thankful that you have someone who actually brought that up.
Yes.
Because who knows what you would have done, or how the kind of person you would be had no one externally brought it up. Or on the other side, like, not only bring it up, but also stick by your side while you fixed it. Like, hey, I'm not running. Like, hey, there's a problem. I'm not running because there's a problem. I'm letting you know there is a problem. I'm going to give you the opportunity to
Mhm.
fix the problem.
Yeah.
If you show no willingness whatsoever to fix the problem, then there's going to be another problem.
Yep.
But they're like, hey, this is what's wrong. This is affecting you,
Mhm.
us, everyone.
And I feel
I have confidence that you can fix it, and I'm going to stick with you to help you fix it.
that's scary.
But
how
I'm
good-
gonna give you
you're
a
so
chance
fucking dead on, Nate.
to fix it.
So dead on. That's great. I love what you're saying because it's pretty much exactly how it went. And you know, if it were now, here's another scenario. What if you don't have a significant other? What if you live by yourself? And what if it's something that you're struggling with internally? Like, I don't know the answer to that. When I was in that deep of a depression, and if I were living by myself, I don't know what I'd have done. Maybe eventually, maybe go to one of you guys or go to my friends and say, hey guys, I'm struggling, but I don't know what level I'd have gotten to before I decided to do that. That kind of scares me, or it does scare me to know that. And there's other people out there that are probably dealing with that right now, that are living by themselves, that are struggling internally and have nowhere to go, no one to talk to, or know how to talk to, or how to let it out. And that's fucking scary as shit, because it is not fun.
It's not. There's a lot of moving parts there, and not to just speak to Sean, your life with that. And I think that's where I was trying to get, with Nate, is that, I think we're better off using this conversation with more action items, the best we can come up with, not being experts or, certified counselors or anything like that. This is the whole point of this part 2, is that we kind of talk things through, try to figure it out, look to the audience, for comments on that stuff. Is, being on your own, there's so many different ways to look at it. And it's like, your life experiences, Sean, or someone who's in that relationship or family life, it's very, very common that you either don't communicate, the other person doesn't communicate, the family doesn't communicate. You end up being a shut-in.
Mm-hmm.
You don't come out of it because, going back to the whole home thing, right? If you don't cut your grass and no one tells you that, it's on you on why you're not doing it. Is it because your schedule? Is it because of your culture? We talked about that earlier. Are you too busy? Would you rather do things that aren't cutting your grass or maintaining the curb appeal of your house? Or is it you just literally don't feel like it and you can't bring yourself to do it? Sunny out, day off, the lawn needs mowed.
Mm-hmm.
You got gas in the mower. You got all the tools in the belt to do the job. You got all the tools in your belt to do the job, and you're just frozen. You just don't want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You choose not to do it. I think that's the big thing, is choosing. So if you don't have, a HOA to tell you that you have to do it, if the city comes by like, you have to do it or you're going to get fined, how far down do you go? That is tough. I mean, that's something that you do need to look at of what are your resources. I think, Nate, you were saying, Sean was lucky and yeah, very, very fortunate that his life, the choices he made leading up to that led him to have the family that he does, that cares about him and all that. There's plenty of people in that situation that people don't communicate, and then all of a sudden it just goes to, totally, awry, and everything's just fucked at that point. If you're on your own, I mean, it is something that you need to realize, that you either are on your own and you can handle this yourself, or you need to get out. You need to talk to someone. I'd say one of the best things that came out of the last few years of being totally resetting, in a sense, the world of how things are interacting, there are more tools for that. You don't even have to leave your house. You do need to take an action to do that. Mm-hmm. You need to at least get online. You need to reach out to any of the services you have. Before that, no one really knows about it until they go through it. But I mean, there were phone numbers you could call that were all basically programs that, are either paid for through grants or through taxpayer, money, depending on where you're at, especially in this country, is that you had resources. It's still educating yourself. And to Nate's point, it's realizing you have the problem or have the issue, right? Yep. You might pull into your driveway or whatever, and literally are walking through knee-high grass or worse just to get to your front door. You look at the other side, the interior, the hoarders, you know what I mean? Where I was going back to the moving story is not as funny, but it's like you literally, you're like, yeah, we need to like move that room. And you open up the door to that bedroom and you literally can't open it enough to go in
Shit
there
everywhere.
because there's shit everywhere. I mean, it's stuff that people deal with, but
That's another mental issue.
it's how much are you willing to put up with, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it is something that, again, what I was trying to get at earlier is that you let the exterior go too long, it's going to start bleeding into the interior.
I agree.
Look at that from a personal level. Like it's if you don't care for yourself, you eat what you want, you don't go to the doctor enough, you just kind of go through life and do things for the quick fixes or the quick highs and all that stuff, that will start to rot the interior. And then all of a sudden you have a whole new set of problems. And a lot of the times it is the things that we deal with nowadays. It's depression, it's heart issues, it's everything else that are all intertwined. You know, I feel lethargic. I don't feel like doing anything. If you went to a doctor and they did blood tests, they do these other things, it's like, that's because of this. Like it's clear as day. You need to do this. You don't get enough sleep. What are your lifestyle choices? All of those things. I think a lot of these like curb appeal things that if it's not just surface level, and you're just, that's all you're striving to do is to create a good outside image. The purity of it is that all of that stuff's so intertwined that your physical health appeals to your mental health, and then it appeals to your outside health.
Yeah.
And there's not really a direct order, but they're all kind of that, I guess, that Venn diagram of like those, you know, again, the boats or however you want to say it. There's these things where you can look at it as that they're all very much intertwined, and it brings it all together. If you let go of one thing, the rest may start crumbling. If you focus on one thing more and it's a circle by itself in that Venn diagram and the other two aren't connected anymore, now you're not connected, and none of it works well together.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there's a lot of effort there. And I guess that was the whole thing of when I'm asking, like, what do people do about that?
I know that it, you know, actually talking to a counselor last year, and he gave me some steps and some tools to use for if I were to go down that rabbit hole or that depressive state again, to help me recognize it. I think that's the biggest thing, is recognizing. And that's, once you do that, and Nate brought that up earlier, is once you can recognize there's an issue, that's half the battle, because you know you have an issue. Now it's up to you to decide whether or not you want to fix the issue, if you want to get yourself better or let yourself go to shit.
It's easier to fix the problem if you know what the problem is.
Yeah.
What are some of those tools?
A lot of it is,
If you don't mind sharing.
no, yeah. A lot of it is, what do they call it? Cognitive therapy. It's kind of, there's like a checklist to kind of be like, okay, if you're starting to feel this way, a checklist to say, okay, you know, how, you know, I guess the big thing is for me, and the best things I've always done is to try to, because usually what sends me down these rabbit holes is either worrying about things that are going to happen or about things that did happen. And by me being present, trying to be like present in that moment, to say, I'm here, I'm safe. You know, I'm aware of my surroundings. I know what I'm doing. Once I become present, I become a lot more aware of everything else, and allows me to see, you know, what kind of state.
Can't change the past.
And the other thing, the one therapist said, and it's kind of like very simple, but there's not a problem till there is one, because a lot of times I worry about, well, what if this and what if that? And I'm under one of the counselors like, well, there's not a problem till there is one. Like, how many times you predicted the future that you thought things were going to be the way they were, and they actually came to fruition? Probably 1 out of 50.
Talking about negative things or positive
negative things.
Okay.
And because
there's a difference there, right?
Yeah. Because you start to go down and what do they call that? It's not forecast, but my wife, what's that called? Anyway, it's like forecasting, or like thinking ahead of, like,
self-prophecy.
Well, yeah. Like if I keep going down this path, I'm gonna have a heart attack. You know, if I do this path eating like shit, I'm gonna have a heart attack. And
That's just science.
yeah, and or
Science.
or if I don't know. I'm trying to think of something drawing a blank here.
It's all right.
But it's a lot of things that were, you know, my wife worries a lot about, you know, Molly's a teenager, and Teresa worries about what if Molly is, you know, they don't talk to us anymore. Well, they're a teenager. They're in that phase right now. What if it gets to the point where they never will? And I'm like, okay, you can't take that path. And I'll have to be like, step back for a second. You know, Molly as a person. You know who they are deep down inside. You think they're really going to be that way in 10 years from now? No, this is totally what they should be doing right now as a teenager. I did it to my parents. Most teenagers I've known when I grew up with, they did the same shit.
Yeah.
It's just how they are and how they're developing right now. And so that, you know, that's just an easier example, but that's conversations we have a lot because, you know, Molly gets ready to go to school in the mornings. They're very like, don't talk to me. I don't want to, and I can hear Teresa being like, all right, are you ready for school? Are you going to do this? Are you going to do that? And I'm like, Teresa, quit asking them questions. Because you're going to come back to me later and you're going to say, Molly just was so mad at me every time I asked a question. It's like, my mom did the same shit. And when she did that when I was that age, I didn't want to fucking say a word to her either. I said, this is just part of their life right now. Let them be them. They'll be better when they get home from school. Right now, they're tired. They're not in a good mood. You can say a couple things, give them some, you know, hey, we'll see you tonight. See you this afternoon. Have a good day. That's about it. But if you keep grilling them, the angrier they're getting. This is one thing they told me. On Teresa's birthday, I told them in the morning, I said, you going to wish your mom a happy birthday? And they grunted because they were tired and they were pissed off. And I didn't say anything. And they came home from school and I'm like, why didn't you wish your mom a happy birthday? They go, because you told me to. I didn't want to do what you told me to. Like the out and out, like admitted.
What's your response to Molly at that point?
I was like, I held inside the chuckle. I was like, I said, it doesn't matter whether I tell you to or not. It's the right thing to do, Molly. It's your mother.
Mm-hmm.
She's been through hell and back, done everything she can to sacrifice to give you a good life. The least thing you could do is say happy birthday to your mom. It's not that fucking hard.
Say happy birthday to your mother. I'm going to beat your ass. No.
But when I put it like
Different
that,
approach.
but when I when I told them it went with something like that, they were like, they didn't say anything, but you could tell a bell went off, and they went in, where's your happy birthday? Because they almost weren't going to do it again because I remind them again. But then I kind of put them things in perspective, like, listen, dude, put your ego aside and realize who this person is and what she's done for you, and show a little appreciation.
Oh man.
So, what?
Just
He's taking it all in.
No, I don't know. I can't relate as not being a parent, but I have my thoughts of, and it would be a lot of trial and error as it is with parents, right?
It is. And I, you know, and I've watched Molly grow up and I know because I've been a lot harder on them in certain instances like that. And it didn't go over well. And it just made things worse.
I love,
so when I put life into perspective, put things in perspective in a way for them to realize, hey, you're kind of being a dick a little bit. You need to step up and just say happy birthday and mean it. And Molly's a very smart kid, and they know when they're wrong, and they'll admit when they're wrong. So once I kind of pointed that out, their whole attitude shifted. So I know how to communicate with Molly and know, like, kind of point to them, like, this is what you're struggling with. This is what you're doing. And you know it's wrong. You need to fix it. And this is why. And they did it. So,
Ray commented, the entitled generation. It's like, this is, what I think I'm finally at that age again, not being a parent, but I don't know if this is, I know it's not everywhere in the world, but at least here in America, it's every generation. The entitled generation, my parents said that, their parents said that. I mean, the whole 1900s at the very least, that's what happened.
Especially teenagers.
You kids don't know shit about shit. You know what I mean? Because they don't. They all think they do.
Yeah.
I mean, the rock and roll movement, you know what I mean? Then it was the fucking hippie movement. And then it was, it's always like you can actually put it with music. It's very, very inspirational. Music changes because the people, like the kids, rebelled. And they want to do something that was different than their parents.
The Beatles.
The Beatles, whatever.
Mhm.
But the entitled generation, it's always the younger generation. They think, I mean, I was the same way. You know, I thought I know best when I was in my
Same.
teenager years. It's like, I didn't know shit. Thought I did. You know what I mean? That's why a lot of times kids get closer to their parents as they get older, because now you can talk to them as adults. You know?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, bills suck, don't they? Yeah. I wanted to say go fuck yourself back then. You know what I mean? Like, this roof isn't, you know, you give them a whole speech. They have no
That
concept.
goes.
No concept. My favorite part about that story was you asked why.
Mhm.
Why didn't you wish your mom a happy birthday? You're having a discussion.
Mhm.
And again, I'm not here to give any parenting advice because I am not qualified for that. But I would say is you have those conversations, especially at that age. Get in there, like get in their head, or try to like say like what's going, like not the vague things. It's like, why didn't you wish your mom a happy birthday?
That's exactly how I asked it.
Yeah, because you told me to. Is that a reason not to? Like, did you want to wish her a happy birthday?
I was actually, yes, they said they would have had I not said something.
That's not, and that's where
But
it's
they
like me.
hadn't.
If I was a parent, again, not having any qualifications, so no one's going to listen to this anyways. But I'd be like, that's not a reason. I got to be honest. I got to be honest. I got to be honest. Like this, is that the type of person you want to be? That as soon as someone asks you to do something, you literally go with no? That will lead you nowhere. Like, I mean, seriously, you're the independent one, right? Like, let me talk to you real quick as a grown up, like, because you're now how old?
15.
15. You're 15. You're getting to be a grown up. You think that you want to, as soon as someone asks you to do something, your knee jerk reaction is do the opposite, even though you wanted to do that. How'd that feel? What are you getting out of that? I really want to know.
How do you think that's going to work for you?
Because I want to know
long-term?
what's going to work for you.
Because
I can either ignore it, and then you can just be like in your words, you can be a dick. Like, that's not going to get you far. Someone offers you a job, you literally get offered a job at some point in your life, and you're like, no, I don't want your job. It's like, but you wanted the job, and now they offered it to you, and now you're like, no. Like, this doesn't make it, like, logically explain this to me, because I value with like how your brain works.
I will say, Steve, I got to give them credit because they gave me a reason why. When I was a teenager, I'm sure I spited my parents when they asked me to do something, but when they would ask me why I didn't do it, I don't know. And if I'd have got that answer, I'd have been really pissed. But I got to give them credit for being honest.
It's fair.
You know, and
It's
so
fair.
that it made it easier for me as a parent to say, okay, you chose that. This is why you shouldn't do that. That's why this is why it's wrong. This, you know, and then once I kind of gave them a little bit of perspective and letting them know, you know, the importance of it and why you should, then they were like, you could see a bell go off and go, okay, I get it now. So it was tough. It sucked that it happened, but it was a learning opportunity.
You start
We're either
learning, right?
Yeah,
You
it's
start
learning
talking and
opportunity.
communicating.
When you guys were teenagers, were you ever the teenager that wanted to challenge your dad?
Of course.
Absolutely.
I got thrown across the room into my ass. I remember I told my dad, no, you're wrong, over and over because he was arguing with me. He picked me up by the arm. He did one of those wrestling moves where he took my arm and launched me across the room. I
What?
slammed to the hallway wall. Then he launched me down the hall. Then he launched me in the bedroom and whipped my ass. And I never argued with him again. I'm not gonna nowadays. I'd be in prison if I did that to Molly. But fortunately, Molly's smart enough to know.
It's on TikTok.
Yeah. It's smart. I'm smart enough to know now, though. And that's where Teresa and I are lucky. They're a very wise kid. They know when they fuck up. They know when they're wrong. You just got to call them on it, and they usually fix it. So
All right, so let me go full circle here right now, real quick on that stuff. I know we're going down this road here. So, just for you guys, and again, not giving Sean or anyone else parenting skills. If as friends, I come at you that stern parent way, or what I see you fucking up and all that stuff, right? You were depressed and all that stuff, and I come at you like, dude, stop. You got to be better. You got to do better. What does that help? What's your response to that?
Fuck
It's
you.
Easy
Yeah,
for you
like-
to say.
Right. So if you tell a teenager, I mean, again, I'm not going to write a parenting book on teenagers at this point, but it's like if you come at them and you give them that old school, like, you need to go in there and you need to tell your mom happy birthday. They might do it. They don't mean it. They're pissed at you now. Like all of a sudden, they're going to do it. You actually had a little bit of a breakthrough because now they're pissed at you and not anywhere. Like now the mom's the favorite.
Yeah.
Teresa's
You're
the
the bad
favorite.
cop. Yeah.
I love you. Let's go do something. And then
Yeah.
like dad's like, hey, you guys want to do something? They glare at you now.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, now at least at least I won a little bit because now my wife got a happy birthday.
Mhm.
They hate me. I just think it's like,
Win the battle,
It's-
lose the war, or lose the battle, win the war.
but you have
like,
that conversation. Everything we're talking about here is that it's like, don't be a dick. Like, why aren't you doing that? Like, what? I don't want to talk about it. Oh, certainly I can see that. But the same thing when you're going through depression, it's the same thing as like a kid going through hormones in a sense, going
Mhm.
through that shit. You don't want to talk to anyone. Why?
Mhm.
Because their hormones in their body and
Yeah.
their mentality is fucking way out of whack. They
hard
don't
to-
even know how to decipher that. Just like someone going through depression or something else, they don't know how to decipher it. So
It's
going through a
very difficult.
counselor, talking through things with that. I mean, I'm not saying it's easy, but I mean, at least you're giving an effort there where it's not just like, I'm going to just beat it through you verbally at the very least and just tell you, you need to do this, you need to do
Mhm.
that. As an adult in a job and your boss says that, you aren't happy with it.
Mhm.
So I
Usually-
can't imagine a
at-
15-year-old be happy with it.
At one of my previous careers, I actually had to go to employee sponsored anger management.
Well, that's a new development.
Yeah, you guys didn't know that one, did you?
Really?
Yep.
Is this curb appeal or interior?
Oh, that was definitely interior. That was
It was.
interior that led to an exterior problem.
It's in your
Structure was
file.
riding a little bit. The bones were shaking.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah.
No, I think it's interesting. Listen to that as like the parent thing. Just this side note is that, the biggest thing is this is what I always hear from the outside looking in with friends and people that have had kids is like they always talk about those stages, right? When they're a baby and then all of a sudden terrible twos. And then it's like, then all of a sudden they're your little angels. And then all of a sudden they hit that teenage years. And it's like, it's they don't know what they're going through. And you think you do know what they're going through because you went through it. Yet you fucking don't know how to react to it. No, you don't know. Like you hear that all the time. Like, used to be a little baby, like you used to like do everything with me and say it. Like you used to go along with everything I did. Now you don't want to. And it's like, now you have to react.
Mhm.
That's
I know they're trying to establish their independence, and that's just part of the life of a teenager. They're trying to set boundaries and see where they can push and pull. And again, though, I got to give Mai a lot of credit, though. Even they're going through this, they're a good kid. They see a lot more. They're a lot wiser than I was. They have, when they do spend time and it's just me and Molly or me and Teresa or us three together, we have good times.
sure.
It just depends on the situation. If they're in the room on the computer talking to their friends, don't bother them. They're not going to give you fucking time of day because they're with their friends. But if it's usually just us and it's us together, everything's great. It's just, you just got to pick your battles.
You're doing the timing, right?
Yep.
You do. I think a lot of times, like in that scenario, I think there was a lot of parents that would be like, there's going to be a time where you won't be able to wish her a happy birthday. You know what I mean? Because it's like you try that tactic. That's not going to work either.
Mhm.
That doesn't hit home until you really get to that point when you're older and you realize there's less opportunities to wish someone a happy birthday
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
or tell them how you feel. I mean, that's something that even fucking 50-year-olds don't get.
Yeah. But, I think they learn from it because now it's more, they wish Mom Happy Mother's Day. They, they're doing a little bit better. And I can
Sounds
see,
like a win.
yeah. And I'll take it as a win because it sucked that they did that. But at the same time, it's a good learning lesson. I feel like I got my point across and we're fine. Everything's good. So
Everything's fine. Everything's fine.
yeah.
I'm looking at some comments here. Yeah. All right. Going back to this whole topic here, I feel like that was a great tangent. I do think I think it's good.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think these conversations are important. I think that this is really impactful to me, at least. I don't know if you guys are getting anything out of it, but I am.
For sure.
Going back to the curb appeal versus the interior, I think these are a lot of those things is that the surface level response isn't always as good as actually diving into the interior and making sure that, to the point of what Nate kept using that terminology of the good bones. I think that is something that you can equate to what Sean was talking about with Molly. Is that's the biggest thing. Sometimes, you're going to have, you didn't clean the bathroom enough. You didn't vacuum the floors. You didn't put the dishes away. It's fixable.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't mow the grass. You didn't trim the hedges. It's fixable.
Mm-hmm.
Nate, what you were saying about the good bones and everything like that is that is the thing. But that's the most important, right? That it structurally you're good.
Yep.
That down the road with Sean, you and Molly and the family is that I think that you really try to keep it on the path that you realize that the grass is going to overgrow at some point. You're going to do that, but the goal is that you keep the bones good, and also you do have the ability to point out some of the things are getting out of hand because your focus is elsewhere. Yeah. So it's like, all right, so how do we fix this? How do we make sure the grass is mowed? How do we make sure the dishes are put away? How do we make sure that we do our laundry the way we should? That works for us. There's no right answer to it. There's not one right answer.
There's not one. Yeah.
Yeah. What's on your mind, Nate?
No, I mean, one of the things I had written down.
I saw you writing. That's why I asked.
Yeah, one of the things I had written down, for my closing remarks, was no one buys a house simply because it has a great yard or it's got nice shrubs.
Okay.
That's not why people buy a house, because they don't live in the yard. They live in the house. People will buy a house that has, great bones, great features internally, because they know they can fix the outside of the house to match the inside. If the inside of the house is absolute shit, it doesn't matter what you do to the outside. The house is going to fall apart. The house is going to crumble. Because it just, there's termites. Something's eating away at the inside of the house. It doesn't matter, how many coats of paint you put on the outside of the house. The house isn't livable on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you buy a house for, is what's inside. I think that's also what you look for in a partner. The outside is a bonus. The inside, how they are as a person, if that matters to you. Some people care very much about the inside of a person. Some people care about looks only. You do you. You do you. Whatever. I know.
May I interject there?
I'm sure. Go ahead. Yeah.
If all you care about is the inside of a person, that can lead to problems down the road if the exterior is not taken care of.
Absolutely.
On the flip side, if only the exterior is taken care of and you don't really get along or don't enjoy the inside of the person or the house, problems there too.
Could be a balance.
Either way, problems inside can leak outside, problems outside can leak inside.
Balance.
But if what the house is as at a core, what a person is at their core, if that is stable and that is strong, it's easier then to fix the outside stuff. If the outside, if the inside's good and the outside's bad, okay, you can make some changes to that. That's easier to fix. Planting grass seed, planting some shrubs.
Are you talking about you or the other person?
What?
Are you the house or is the other person the house?
Go either way.
Are you the buyer or the seller?
Well, I mean, if you're looking at it as you as an individual,
you're the house.
If you're the house,
yeah,
if you're the house, I think your facade and the impression you give off might initially attract people, but what's going to land you someone that stays with you is going to be what's on the inside.
I think if somebody's at the core, like strong and stable, it's going to have good chance of going to be a pretty good exterior too. I think
yes. Well, yeah. I mean,
well, I think if you're the house, if all you worry about is the curb appeal and race, like, get to the point, stop using metaphors. Now I'm going to use a metaphor. If all you think about is the exterior, right? So you got your lawn, the house is painted, everything looks great on the inside.
You got good biceps, shoulders, chest.
But You as a person, you're not sure who you are. They come knock on your door and the inside's a mess. You're going to let them in? No,
No.
you're not. That's that whole thing where it's like, you kind of like, oh, hey, what's going on? I'm going to go out back, just walk around the house and come, let's hang outside. You're keeping it on the outside because you're not sure, like the interior is shit if you are that house. All you've been doing is focusing on the outside. All this, let's just for Ray, let's dial into this metaphor one last time. If the interior is great and the exterior is bad, you're inviting them over at night. You're having sex with the lights off. You got nothing for that, guys?
It's all you, bro.
Am I wrong?
Ray, what's your comment?
No, my point is
There's
that,
a little bit of delay. Give him a chance to type.
No, I'm saying
He's like,
Oh, sure.
there's a little bit
Like
of shock
screaming
value
at
in
the
that
tower,
statement. That's why I made that statement. But I mean, I think that is something where it's like, if all you do is focus on the outside, you're not going to let people in general.
yeah.
You're going to keep them on the outside. You're going to keep. There's no real value there to that house. There's no value to yourself. Same thing if you're the significant others or you're dating or whatever it might be. Is all you do is focus on the outside. You won't let someone in, and that's very, very short. It's short-lived. It's short-minded. It's everything is just, it's limited. You will never have a successful career if all you are is surface level and you really don't have the ability to do the job. You don't put the effort in to do the job. You don't put the effort into knowing that person or letting someone else know you, and all you do is keep them outside of the house. That's the metaphor there.
Yeah.
But if all you do is, like, my personality and my skills are the same way, they're very, very strong, but the outside appeal, the curb appeal, is poor because you neglect that, you won't have as many people interested in getting inside the house and looking around and meeting you. You're the house. Like, no one's going to want to meet you if all you're doing is you got stains on your shirt and you're overweight, you're not healthy, you're not, you don't maintain, your hair, all that stuff. Your clothes are a mess, you're disheveled. You're pushing people away on that side of
I
it.
just said that towards Ray's comment as a response. Like, like I said, the outside, I think the inside is very important. Does your outside invite people to come over? Like, if you put an exterior out that is very standoffish, or you're a dick, do people want to hang out with you? Do they want to come visit?
No, so you guys don't know any people that you believe are genuinely good people because they don't meet your opinion of what they should look like outwardly. Talking about people named not a fucking house. Yeah. Again, I think I'll say this, and you guys will just roll in since we're getting late here. I think the inside should match the outside. That's the goal.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It won't always, you know what I mean? We don't, just for Ray's sake, we're not all, $1 million houses.
Yeah. And we're not always well kept inside and outside on a daily basis. You're going to have
No, you're not always your best. You have
Yeah.
bad days.
Yeah.
All right, closing remarks. We could go on for this. I'm interested to see what you guys have to say as we round out here.
all right. I'll start if you guys want to.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right.
Well,
Sean.
I'd let in with mine while Sean was taking a piss.
Go ahead.
No,
No.
I said mine. Like, no one buys a house just because it has a great yard or it has great shrubs or garden. Because once they learn who you are, to stop using metaphors for race.
All right, yeah, get to yeah.
If you look nice on the outside, you're in great shape, you work out a bunch, you've got great muscle build, but you're a shitty person on the inside.
Triggered.
You're an ass. Well, you're a decent person though. But if you're an asshole to everybody, if you can't effectively communicate, if you've got the IQ of a handball, like, that's not what's going to keep someone coming around. That's like, yeah, outside, great package. Inside, no.
Yeah.
Not because a lot of people don't. That's not what they want to settle for.
No.
That's. I mean, hey, you're inside, great. You attracted some people. Guess what? Shit attracts flies too.
All right.
But
let's dive into that metaphor here. So
No,
you're the shit, and flies are.
It's gonna be your bowl.
But I mean, if you're a genuine person on the inside,
Bloody butchers, corn.
If you're a kind-hearted person,
Or the butcher.
if you're a genuine person, if you actually show, a sense of drive and self-worth, people can overlook your outward expression. They can overlook who
Good
you are
point.
on the outside simply because they know that on the inside you're a good person, and that's more important, I think, to most people.
Agreed. Sean, go ahead there.
And then I'm gonna pee.
I think it's all about balance when it comes to interior and exterior, whether it's a house or a person. And I mentioned earlier, you're going to have those days where you're not going to look your best, and you may not be the best person that you should be, and that's just part of life. But I will say, after mowing my yard when it was over a foot long, and kind of stepping away and look back, it looked fucking nice.
It looks good.
It looked, and it kind of had to give me a self-confidence, a little bit of pride. And I was like, fucking hey, man, I'm feeling myself. And
that's your lawn.
It's my lawn.
Yeah.
And
it's like getting a haircut.
Yeah. And I just got done power washing the deck in the front, and it pops now. So it's like those, we work hard on that. And it seems to be like, well, we have all 4 seasons here. So like in the summer and spring and fall, a lot of it is more focused on the outside, and then the winter we do more interior shit. But it's the one thing I will say when it comes to both of those, it's a process. It takes time. We've been in our house for over 20 years. And over those years, we've had the exterior look like shit. And we worked very, very hard to get it to look better. And we put a lot of money and effort and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to get it to look the way it does now. And I think that just goes to, it's just about, I think it's very similar to a person in life. As you grow, you're always trying to, improve yourself. Or you should be, at least, on all ends. And the same with our house. I mean, on the inside, it's, we've done a lot of remodeling and over those years, we've learned a lot, and we've a lot of people come to our house and they feel like it's very homey, it's very cozy, and I like that feeling. We're not a house where I think our houses reflect who we are, and at least for our house it does. I mean, there's days we don't look our greatest, but there's days when we do, and we take pride in that. And same with the interior side, is like we really put a lot of time and effort into the interior side of our house, as well as us inside. I mean, if you look at what we've done over the years to the inside of our house, we've come a long way. And I can also say that for me, and as well as Teresa, we've gone through our ups and downs. There's been some major health issues with me, and mental health issues with both me and Teresa, and we've overcome them every time. And now we build more character in ourselves, learn from those. And I feel the same way it can go towards our house. It kind of reflects who we are as people, and at least with our house. And because we take pride in what we do, and we work really hard to make our house, comfortable and welcoming. And especially bringing Molly home from China, we want to give them a house to be able to enjoy and to live in and feel comfortable in. And now they're at the age where, like, when they were younger, they're like, I don't ever want to move out. I love this house. I never want to move, And so at least I know that we've created an environment for Molly where they feel comfortable and safe.
I like that.
And I think that's kind of where I'm just going to leave it at that. I think that's how I see it.
I like that.
Thank you.
I do. It's a lot of work. Curb appeal and the interiors. It's a lot of work. I think that's something that we deal with a lot, is that not everyone wants to put the work in. And I'm not making a commentary on this generation and all that stuff, not wanting to work and all that stuff. Yeah, there's those things. But again, that's nothing new. I keep going back to that. I mean, like kids didn't want to work when, you know, in the from what you hear and see, like there's some that were raised that way. They want to, they learn that hard work ethic and stuff like that. There's other people that there's no one path that works well, but it's everyone hits at a different moment because yes, to you, Sean, to use that, you know, Molly has great opportunities in this life, not only now, but in the future because of where they came into this country and into your family.
Mhm.
People take things for granted all the time. It's how do you transition from taking things for granted of living in a wonderful house, playing in a yard or whatever it is, right? Whatever those good moments are. And I'm talking obviously suburbia here a little bit, but even having a roof over your head, having food on the table, those types of things are important for survival and also feeling secure, feeling they belong somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big part of it. I want to comment on, you know, Ray still listening. I appreciate Ray, you sticking around here, and I'll lead this into the way I kind of close out here is how do you ever get to that if you block someone because of their physical appearance? Growth. This is something that we're going the wrong way right now, in my opinion. It's all about curb appeal. It's all about surface level. Your curb appeal, your outside is valued as it has been for a very long time. This is nothing new, in my opinion. This country, elsewhere as well. And I will say to Ray's maybe pleasure that the American way of doing things, it does bleed into the other countries and the other parts of the world, is that you do need to have your shit together on the outside for people to take any worth in you. We're simple creatures to a point that when it comes down to it, we all want to be liked. You say you don't, you do. I'm sorry. In my opinion, you don't want to be liked. That's fine. You're going to be on an island. It doesn't work out. Everyone dies if you're by yourself on an island. That's just the way it works. I'm sorry. That's the way, in my mind, it works. You can say you're strong. You're by yourself. I don't care what anyone else thinks. No, you do. You do. If you're saying that, you do. If you don't say that, you do. And a lot of it does start on the outside. This is you know, we are gifted with the sense of using our eyes to see people, having first impressions. People are attracted to people. I'm not even talking about just sex. I'm talking about just in general.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Growing up, I mean, it's something that you have to realize that if someone has a physical deformity, that's tough to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. It's tough when you're, let me get on my soapbox as a white male in America. It's tough when you see people that are different. It is, because you don't know. Like, everyone's learning at the same level, right? Like, it's something that your socialization, if you're surrounded by a certain demographic, whether it be your financial status, the way you look on the outside, your skin color, your stature, the fact that you have 2 arms, 2 legs, 2 eyes, 2 ears, whatever it might be. I go back to this thing, and you guys may not really think this is relevant, but you know, I had a dog with my ex that my ex-wife that started developing a limp. Got him as a puppy. And I remember going to the vet, and they're like, yeah, we're either going to have to fuse the joint to keep the leg, or we're going to have to amputate. What do you guys want? Like, as people, what do you think? You want to keep all 4 legs, right?
Mm-hmm.
You want that. That's what you think, right? You know,
Because it's the
I don't want a
outward
3-legged
appearance.
dog.
Yeah. But what's best for the dog?
No, what's
The vet literally said, I remember this, is that we can just see how it goes. We never did either, luckily. And because they said, though, that their advice is we would amputate the leg because the dog would adapt. And they don't care if they have 3 or 4 legs. They don't have what we have.
Mhm.
Right.
And that goes back to what I was saying leading into this, is that You don't necessarily block someone based on their physical appearance. You don't necessarily overcompensate and cater to them in a sense that it's like, oh, now I want to be your friend because you're different. Like that's where we're at right now. And I fucking hate that shit.
Yeah.
It's bullshit. It's surface level.
It's
you don't want
fake.
to, you don't want to be with, you don't want to like spend more time with that person because of who they are. You start wanting to be with that person for the opposite side of it. And it's in the same realm, the same mentality. I want to be with someone because you are attractive to me. You make me feel comfortable. And on the flip side, that overcompensating is I want to be around you and spend time with you because you are different. It makes me feel a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
The whole goal of it is, Ray, to this whole physical point, you don't necessarily block someone for that. But if all they do is talk about their physical appearance, they stop short. They don't let you in the house. I'm going to stick with the metaphor for Ray here.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, if all you want to do is buy that house because it's got some work to do, I got to really build this house up. It's going to make me feel better. Hopefully, that's in good graces. That's going to really value. You're going to increase the value of that house. You're going to increase the value of that person that may have other people saying, I don't want anything to do with you. I'm not saying there's a right or wrong here. I'm saying is that the goal is to get inside that person, get inside that house, really get to know someone and not block someone because of their physical appearance. Right now, I feel as though we're in a world right now is that people want to be friends or care about people because of their physical appearance, whether it be the handicap thing or something like that, or because of skin color, or because of gender, or because of this. I appreciate the effort, but get to know that person. There was a time I had a conversation with someone. It's like, I don't care necessarily as a white male in this country. If you identify as this, if that's all you talk about, that's exhausting. If you're an asshole, I don't want to be around you. If you're a good person and you're okay being friends with me or talking to me, I'm all for it.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're taking care of yourself and you want to be a good person. And I hope that you want to take care of the outside versus the inside, both of them.
Yeah.
If all you do is talk about the outside appearance or the outside appeal to someone because this is how I am and this is who I am and all that stuff, it's like, if that's all you talk about, that's your curb appeal, man.
Mm-hmm.
Who are you as a person? I get it. You identify as this. You look like this. You have this, whatever. Great. Absolutely. I appreciate that part of you. And
what else?
What's next?
Yeah.
And then, that's the real connection. That's letting someone inside your house. That's the interior.
Yep.
But you have to also take care of the exterior because, I don't want to talk to someone that doesn't take care of themselves. So clearly they are, they haven't bathed in 5 days, like to the extreme, their clothes smell and I'm trying to be around you. Yeah, I'll try to talk. What's going on? If they don't let you in, then what's the point? And on the flip side of that, if you are that person, if you don't care about your curb appeal, that's a problem. If all you do is care about your curb appeal, but I try to talk to you and you're like, yeah, but like, look, let me show you a before picture of me before I lost the weight. That's great, man. You showed me that last week. What do you like to do? Lose weight? Oh, okay. You know what I mean? Like it's all short-lived. No one, you care about it, but it gets to the point where it's like no one cares.
Mm-hmm.
We care about you. That's what I care about. Is like, yes, I get it. You're in great shape. I get it. You're out of shape. I get it. You have a handicap. I get it. You got a different skin color than me. That's cool. If you want to keep it surface level, then that's what our friendship's going to be. That's what our relationship's going to be, is surface level. And we will never know each other from the interior.
Mm-hmm.
You will never really let me inside your house to hang out, sit down on your couch or whatever, and really talk shit. So I think it both. I don't think you need to block anyone for it, but if that's all they do is talk about their physical appearance or that's our identity, physical appearance is not your identity. And I think that's where we're getting to, unfortunately, more and more these days. We're going backwards.
Yep.
Guys, happy Whiskey Wednesday. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you guys for listening. check part 1 if you haven't. And we're going to see you guys next week.